branded a bloodthirsty monster and cast aside by her own noble house, Rosalind Velian once held the empire in total terror. But every horrific crime pinned to her name was nothing more than a carefully crafted trap. Stripped of her noble title and locked behind cold dungeon bars, the infamous Villainess now awaits her impending execution. Her glory days are completely gone. Then, an arrogant nobleman steps inside to gloat over her downfall. Grabbing her collar, the foolish nobleman snarls that she should have accepted his marriage proposal long ago. He sneers, "You should have just bowed your head and said, 'Thank you so much.'" Can she survive his pathetic power trip? Rosalind adjusts her eye patch and stares right through him with cold disdain. She bluntly calls him a disgusting pig who hits on girls young enough to be his daughter, completely shattering his ego. Honestly, I love seeing her shut him down. Furious at her insolence, Baron Robert draws his blade and presses the sharp steel directly against her bare throat. He screams that she must have a death wish. Rosalind does not even flinch. She knows the ruthless crown prince plans to use her public execution to solidify his reign. Dying on the imperial gallows as a political scapegoat is a fate she refuses to accept. Will she really let him win? Instead, Rosalind deliberately goads the enraged Baron to strike her down right inside this cell. Dying by his hand will ruin the prince's political circus forever. A dangerous choice is made. Rosalind smiles coldly, delivering a scathing blow to his fragile pride. She bluntly labels him a low-life pig before declaring him absolutely disgusting. Her blunt insult is a dangerous gamble. She wants to push him over the edge. Blinded by explosive rage, Baron Robert completely loses his mind. He lifts his sharp weapon and swings it directly toward her bare throat, screaming, "Die!" Rosalind does not flinch as the sharp blade descends toward her neck. Her deadly plan almost succeeds. Yet, right before the lethal steel can slash her skin, a commanding voice halts the attack, causing the heavy sword to drop and clatter uselessly against the stone floor. Marquis Garin steps into the dark cell, clamping his gloved hand around the Baron's wrist in a ruthless vice grip. The arrogant noble squeals in terror as he turns to face the powerful man. Garin sees straight through her suicide attempt. He bluntly warns the noble that Rosalind is only using him to take her place on the gallows. Rosalind freezes in shock as her secret strategy is completely exposed. Fixing the trembling Baron with a cold purple glare, Garin softly asks, "So tell me, do you still want to follow through?" Honestly, I love seeing him completely intimidate that pathetic bully. Panicking for his life, the cowardly Baron stumbles backward and flees the dungeon in a frantic rush. Her clever trap is completely ruined. Rosalind glares up, asking why Garin Wilfried had to step in right now. Garin greets her with infuriating composure. He smugly notes how her pretty face has turned into a total mess. Rosalind glares right back at him with fierce contempt. She refuses to offer a single pleasantry to the man who ruined her final escape. Garin smirks, claiming he is only here to offer a second chance. He insists this world has become dull. Rosalind confronts him bitterly. He played the role of her loyal guardian just to lower her guard and drag her to prison himself. Her mind flashes back to her grueling life on the run. When she was framed as a traitor, Garin was the only one who extended a helping hand. He gave her shelter and acted as her protector. That trust made his betrayal sting far worse. Garin suddenly changes the topic. He leans in closer and asks, "Do you believe in parallel worlds, Rosalind?" He describes ancient band theories of branching realities created by divergent human choices. Can a single decision really rewrite fate? Rosalind snaps back, calling his grand theories utter nonsense. Why spout forbidden history inside a death cell? Honestly, I would be just as suspicious of his sudden motivational speech. He is definitely up to something. Garin kneels down to her level on the cold floor. Reaching out, he softly cups her chin, forcing her dark red eyes to meet his gaze. He tells her that dying as a mere villainess would be a tragic waste. Then, he softly poses the ultimate question. "Don't you want to live?" Blood suddenly trickles from Rosalind's lips, catching Garin completely off guard. He panics as he realizes she intentionally provoked that shallow blade cut earlier just to draw blood. Wiping her mouth with a bloody hand, Rosalind mockingly asks if her face looks shocking to a man as calculating as him. Her lethal trap was already set. Rosalind reveals that right before her capture, she swallowed hemocruorous, a deadly poison that stops blood from clotting. That tiny neck scratch was all she needed to bleed out uncontrollably right before his eyes. Collapsing onto the cold stone floor, Rosalind smiles coldly and declares, "The final victory is mine." As her blood pools across the stone floor, Rosalind softly confesses that she was terribly lonely, admitting a small part of her felt happy when they were together. But when Garin asks if she wants to live, She looks out at the sunset and offers a serene smile. Her answer is simply, no. Garen watches in stunned silence as her body collapses limply onto the dungeon floor. She chose her own death over becoming a pawn in his grand game. Can anyone really outplay a villainess who embraces her own end? Honestly, her fierce pride never wavered for a second. Her breathing stops, confirming her death. Suddenly, violent magic surges through the dark dungeon cell, enveloping her motionless body in glowing flames. Instead of grieving, Garen gazes down at her corpse with a sinister smirk. Leaning heavily on his cane, he softly whispers, "I'll see you soon, my rival." Expecting eternal peace after her sacrifice in the dungeon, Rosalind gasps as her crimson eyes snap open. She is alive. Instead of cold stone and dark oblivion, she sits up on a plush bed inside a lavish room, surrounded by startled attendants. A sharp, arrogant voice scolds her for causing a scene the very moment she regained consciousness. Rosalind turns toward the speaker in utter disbelief. How is Lady Carmel standing right in front of her, alive and well? Her mind races back to the tragic ruin of her family. Lady Carmel was her father's scheming second wife who dragged their noble house into complete destruction. Rosalind distinctly remembers executing the wicked woman with her own hands long ago. Examining her hands, Rosalind discovers something unthinkable. Not a single battle scar remains on her soft skin. Her lost eye is fully restored, and her body feels completely healthy. Is this really her old bedroom inside the Duke's estate? Lady Carmel sighs with deep exasperation, haughtily declaring, "You're an absolute embarrassment to this family." She angrily berates the young woman, demanding to know, was causing a massive uproar with a fake suicide attempt not enough for you? Rosalind narrows her red eyes in quiet confusion. A fake suicide attempt? That makes no sense. Rosalind would never choose such a pathetic path when she could grab a sharp sword and go down fighting. Honestly, I love her fierce spirit. Her dead stepmother is alive, her destroyed home stands untouched, and everyone remembers her as someone else. Has she really regressed 10 years into a parallel world? Rosalind realizes Garen wasn't lying after all. The forbidden theory of parallel worlds was real. Waking up trapped 10 years in her past, her mind burns with fury. Can she really rewrite her terrible fate this time? Tired of the endless nagging, Rosalind snaps at her visitor without hesitation. She tells Lady Carmel to shut up and get out of her room, comparing her voice to an annoying mosquito. Honestly, I love seeing her hold nothing back. Lady Carmel stammers in complete shock. The timid girl who trembled at every word is gone. Outraged by the sudden disrespect, Carmel angrily points her finger, scolding Rosalind for daring to talk back to her own mother. Rosalind sees right through the fake act. Carmel hasn't even married her father yet, wearing modest jewelry just to play the innocent bride. Leaning in dangerously close, Rosalind calmly asks her future stepmother to stay out of her way. With a sinister smile, Rosalind lists every secret crime Carmel plans to commit. She promises to turn a blind eye when Carmel plants spies, sells secrets, and slowly poisons her father, leaving Carmel completely paralyzed with terror. When the arrogant maid steps up to defend her mistress, Rosalind does not hesitate. She instantly grabs the servant by her hair, violently yanking her head back. Does she look like someone you can push around? Glaring down at the trembling servant, Rosalind asserts her absolute authority inside the estate. She sneers, "I am the daughter of this dukedom," forcing the disrespectful maid straight to her knees. The maid shrieks in pain, begging for mercy as Rosalind's ruthless grip tightens around her face. Lady Carmel recoils in shock, demanding to know what on earth she is doing. She is not playing around. Squeezing the maid's chin even tighter, Rosalind completely silences her whimpers. She delivers a chilling promise. Anyone who dares cross her will be dragged down to the absolute depths of hell. Honestly, I love seeing her take back her power. Looking down with a terrifyingly radiant smile, Rosalind utterly shatters their nerve. She calmly orders them to get the hell out of her room. Can anyone actually stop her now? The true villainess has returned. Rosalind pins the maid to the floor without hesitation, leaning down with an unyielding glare to deliver a chilling promise. "I'll drag you straight down to hell." The frightened maid quivers under her grip and tearfully begs for mercy, completely terrified by the sudden shift in her mistress's temperament. A subtle, cold smile plays across Rosalind's lips as she looks down at the pathetic pair. She isn't taking orders from anyone anymore. Pointing directly toward the open doorway, she calmly orders Carmel to take her foolish servant and get out of her room immediately. Carmel bristles with indignation at the sudden defiance, struggling to maintain her usual composure. She glares back coldly, giving a harsh final warning before walking away. "I won't let what happened today just slide." With a stiff posture, she turns and exits while the maid scrambles frantically behind her. The heavy wooden doors slam shut. Silence finally settles over the grand room. Rosaline lets out a long breath, relieved to have dealt with the immediate nuisances standing in her way. Now she must gather crucial information and confirm whether this place is truly a parallel world before taking her next move. Inspecting her wardrobe, she quickly realizes that most of her dresses are faded and ruined. Obviously Lady Carmel's subtle doing over the years. Only a single dark dress remains presentable. She carefully applies a bold stroke of crimson lipstick, determined to project strength instead of weakness. Sitting down at her vanity mirror, she sighs at her sickly pale reflection. Is she really supposed to navigate this new life looking so fragile? It looks even worse than when she was 17 back in her previous world. Personally, I love her sharp new attitude. Although she isn't completely satisfied with her overall appearance, time is running out. The appointed hour has arrived, and she cannot afford to delay any longer. Stepping forward with quiet confidence, she prepares to head outside and begin collecting facts about her new surroundings. 3 days in, Rosaline reaches a firm conclusion. She has landed in a parallel world, 10 years before her execution, back when she was just a fragile 17-year-old noblewoman. The faces around her match her memories, yet subtle differences ripple everywhere. Can she really rebuild her life entirely from scratch? The key figures from her past exist here too, but her current standing is utterly miserable, left with faded gowns while servants whisper openly behind her back. She refuses to play the victim. She suffered enough running as a fugitive in her previous timeline. This second chance belongs to her, and she intends to keep it. Stepping up to the grand dining room doors, Rosaline catches the footman completely off guard. He stammers out, "Ah, Rosalind," in utter shock at her elegant transformation. She looks at him calmly and asks, "Why are you so surprised? I was also invited to this family dinner." Nobody can reconcile the timid, neglected girl from yesterday with the commanding noblewoman standing before them now. Talk about an absolute glow-up. She orders the doors opened immediately, leaving the footman with no room to argue. The heavy wooden doors creak open wide. Idle chatter instantly dies out across the grand dining room as every single eye on her. Rosaline steps across the threshold with unshakable poise, bringing the entire room to a complete standstill. Her unexpected entrance freezes the entire table. Duke Devon Bellion narrows his stern eyes at her arrival, while Aegis pauses mid-bite with his fork subsended in shock. Meanwhile, Lady Carmel bristles with indignation, unable to process Rosaline's sudden boldness. Sitting silently at the head of the table is Sir T. Bellion, her biological father, regarding her with cold, unreadable eyes. In her original world, this entire duchy had fallen 5 years ago, leaving every person in this room. Seeing them all alive now, can she truly shield her heart from the coming ruin? As the footman pulls back her chair, Rosaline gracefully takes her place at the grand dining table. Seeing all these familiar faces alive again fills her heart with a quiet, bittersweet warmth. She had originally planned to announce her departure today, but staying a few more days to observe them might not be such a bad idea after all. Can she really protect them this time? The quiet atmosphere shatters in an instant. Carmel bristles with fury the moment she spots Rosaline's bare shoulders, shouting across the table about proper decorum and noble refinement. Talk about an immediate overreaction, but Rosaline simply sits back, regarding the outburst with an unbothered, playful smile. Rosaline leans in with a razor-sharp smile, delivering a devastating counterattack. She openly exposes Carmel's background as a former commoner who seized control of the county after her ex-husband's demise. "I don't think there's any noble refinement for me to learn from you." She refuses to back down. As a born lady of the duchy for 17 years, she will not take lessons from an impostor. Carmel's face drains of color as her cruel scheme falls apart in front of everyone. Desperate to regain the upper hand, she bursts into tears and turns towards Curdy and the Duke to beg for sympathy. "Father, Surdy, did you hear that? Will anyone actually fall for her dramatic performance this time?" Before Carmel can even finish sobbing, Duke Devon Bellion cuts into his steak with icy composure. "Be quiet and eat." His single sharp command shuts down her pathetic display without a second thought. Talk about absolute authority. Rosaline enjoys the heavy silence, calmly slicing her own dinner. Her grandfather's villainous temper hasn't changed one bit since her previous life. While Carmel continues sniveling into her napkin right beside her, Rosaline takes a deliberate bite with a satisfied smile. The balance has shifted. Rosaline catches the maids whispering maliciously behind her back the moment she sits down at the table. Rather than losing her temper, she takes a slow bite and flashes a brilliant smile. This is really delicious. What kind of clever trap is she setting here? Extending her fork, she sweetly offers to share her special portion with her uncle and father. Across the grand table, Aegis and Surti pause in absolute shock at her unexpected generosity. Meanwhile, behind her, the guilty servants turn pale as ice. She definitely knows what they did to her meal. Aegis rises from his seat with a bright, playful smile, eager to honor his niece's very first request. But Carmel immediately shrieks across the table, scolding Rosaline for her improper manners and warning Aegis not to indulge her whining. Does this woman ever take a break? Aegis glares at Carmel with an intimidating aura that instantly shuts down her screeching display. I shouldn't be your brother-in-law just yet, should I? He firmly reminds the uninviteds outside of her place before turning back to Rosaline with a gentle smile. If he doesn't protect her, I will. As Aegis leans down to take a bite right off her fork, Rosaline quietly observes him up close. In her previous life, he stepped up to carry the crushing weight of the duchy after disaster struck, bowing his head to protect them until the end. His devotion was truly unmatched. The moment he chews, Aegis instantly recognizes the bitter taste of sabotage. Instead of making a scene, he play-acts with a mischievous grin, claiming it's so delicious that his family must try it too. He even shoves a forkful straight into Duke Devon's unsuspecting mouth. Duke Devon's expression turns lethal as the foul taste hits his tongue. He erupts in a terrifying rage across the dining room. Which bastard has a death wish? Rosaline calmly looks up and identifies the maids who mocked her, delivering the ultimate retribution. Guards rush forward to seize the panicked maids right off the floor. The servants frantically cry out that it's all a misunderstanding, pleading with Carmel to save them, but she turns her face away in cold silence, abandoning her loyal pawns without hesitation. Nobody is coming to rescue them. Duke Devon scoffs in absolute disgust at the low-class tricks played at his table. Desperate to protect her own standing, Carmel bows her head with a pathetic apology, claiming the maids acted entirely on their own out of misplaced loyalty to her. Rosaline idly runs a finger along her dinner knife, praising such fierce devotion. She casually compares their loyalty to the notorious Magroxa criminal syndicate. Duke Devon narrows his eyes in sharp suspicion at the sudden mention of that dangerous name. Is she really accusing Carmel of something so sinister? In her past timeline, this secret criminal network operated quietly from the shadows, assigning internal ranks based on chess pieces. They were master manipulators who bided their time beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. They built an empire by quietly hijacking the Bellian duchy's trade routes and businesses. By infiltrating noble households with hidden spies, they systematically stole internal secrets, skilled technicians, and valuable clients until whole families collapsed. Back in the dining room, Rosaline turns her gaze directly onto Carmel, her voice dripping with lethal calm. Pointing her sharp knife forward, she exposes Carmel's secret role before the entire family. No, the Bishop of Magroxa. Talk about an absolute masterpiece of revenge. She finishes her deadly strike with a chilling warning. I told you not to bother me. Rosaline casually twirls her dinner knife, remaining entirely composed as she Lady Carmel in front of the entire room. Or should I say, the Bishop of Makrok. The secret operative freezes as her true identity is exposed. Rosaline explains that members of the sect bear a heat-sensitive brand on their heel as proof. Honestly, Carmel never expected her secret to surface like this. Panicking, the exposed operative realizes she must act immediately to save herself. Carmel clings frantically to Surti's arm, begging him to disregard the wild accusations, but the moment her hand touches him, sharp pain grips his chest. He winces in agony, unable to utter a word. Is something controlling him? Observing his sudden distress, Rosaline quickly identifies the source of his chest pain. She casually notes that Makrok spies specialize in both hidden daggers and hypnotic manipulation. Her precise words shatter Carmel's deceptive cover. The truth strikes Surte with overwhelming force. Hidden directives resurface in his mind, revealing commands to eliminate anyone who opposes Carmel, even if they are his own family. The illusion holding his thoughts prisoner finally begins to crack. Clutching his pounding chest, Surte realizes all the mysterious commands driving his actions were hypnosis all along. How could he have been so blind to this puppet trap? Terrified, he wonders just when this insidious manipulation first began. Sensing Surte's growing hesitation, Carmel realizes her time is slipping away. She attempts to smoothly play off the accusation with a sweet, desperate smile, inviting Rosaline to retire to her room so they can resolve this misunderstanding in private. As Carmel steps forward, she stealthily draws a concealed needle, aiming directly for Rosaline's throat. But Rosaline stays completely calm. With a quick command, her butler intercepts the assassin mid-strike, grabbing her wrist and forcing the lethal weapon to clatter onto the floor. Gasps fill the dining hall as the servants spot the deadly poison needle on the carpet. Rosaline was right all along. Overcome with disgust at the secret operative in their midst, the Duke scowls in anger and orders, "Drag her out at once." As the butler forcefully restrains Carmel, Rosaline takes a slow sip of her wine and delivers a chilly parting blow. "Farewell, Lady Carmel." Stripped of her disguise, Carmel flies into a venomous rage, screeching death threats at the woman who saw right through her. How could her flawless plan fail like this? Unmoved by her frantic thrashing, the butler firmly pins the screaming traitor to the floor. Honestly, she had it coming. He commands the guards to cover her eyes at once, ensuring her hypnotic gaze can no longer manipulate anyone in the estate. Carmel never stood a chance against her. What the operative didn't know was that in Rosaline's past life, the Makrak sect had tried to recruit her as well. They even begged her to become their queen, giving her complete knowledge of their sinister methods. With the dangerous intruder finally eliminated, Rosaline sits back in triumph, ready to take care of her remaining business. Rosaline politely apologizes for causing a scene during dinner, but her brother immediately laughs and praises her quick actions. Taking full advantage of the gathered family, she clumsily drops a bombshell across the table. "I intend to leave this mansion soon." Her father flinches in shock. Rosaline explains that she has no personal assets and asks only for a few jewels to support her departure. Her father grips his chair in disbelief, his voice filled with strain. "Why are you suddenly speaking of leaving home?" His direct concern catches her completely off guard. In both her past life and this current one, the times they spoke could be counted on one hand. Does he actually care, or is this just another misunderstanding? Honestly, my heart aches watching her doubt him. Misinterpreting his tense reaction, Rosaline offers a gentle smile. She reassures him that living quietly in another nation will prevent her from bringing shame to the family. But her father raises his voice in frustration, asking why she would make such a decision while her body remains so frail. Knowing he finds her untrustworthy, she promises to erase her name from the House of Bellion entirely. Softly, she smiles, completely detached from the noble title she once longed to share. Though raised as a sickly, illegitimate child, she still held gratitude toward them for providing medical care and shelter. My inability to attend father's funeral in my past life remains a lingering regret. Confined to a bed from which she could not escape, the lonely child she once was spent endless days yearning for her family to open the door. But those years of waiting broke her heart. She no longer wishes to hope, only to find peace in a place where no one knows her. Rosaline calmly adds that before leaving, she will personally petition the imperial family to annul her engagement to the third prince. Outraged, her brother slams his chair down, shouting, "Do not speak of such nonsense." Unable to process her sudden declaration, he angrily commands her to return to her room, take her medicine, and rest. Her composure never wavers for a single second. As he storms out of the dining hall in a flurry of frustration, her uncle rests his head in his hands. Emotional walls sure run deep in this estate. Pausing as she turns to leave, Rose listens as her uncle tries to soften the emotional blow. He reassures her that her father doesn't despise her. He has simply been a stubborn, socially inept fool forever. Smiling politely, she thanks him for his kind consideration. Her formal title gives her uncle instant chills. With a playful smirk, she confesses she only called him uncle earlier to get under Carmel's skin before taking her leave. Did she really just play him so easily? Watching her depart, her grandfather settles back at the dining table. He lights a cigar with a chuckle, surprisingly amused by her hidden mischievous side. Her uncle takes the opportunity to tease the old duke, claiming his stern parenting ruined both him and Shine. Twirling a knife playfully, he boldly claims, "Father is single-handedly ruining the family," driving the patriarch into a loud, shouting rage. Slipping out the doors, her uncle urges the duke to step up before his only granddaughter leaves for good. Honestly, this family is a complete disaster. As Rosaline walks down the quiet hallway alone, the real weight behind her light-hearted words begins to settle in. Shine pauses thoughtfully in the quiet hallway, admitting to himself that their family was far too indifferent while he was away. Observing Surte struggling to recover after his hypnosis shattered, Shine resolves to step in and offer his younger brother some help. A few days later, Rosaline sits at her dressing table as a maid delivers yet another bouquet. Attached is a card reading, "I happened to pick this up on my way." She sighs softly, wondering what on earth has gotten into him since that eventful dinner. Her chambers are practically overflowing with lavish floral arrangements arriving daily. Every delivery comes with bizarre notes claiming the flowers are still cheap or growing wild along the road. Is he trying to send her some sort of cryptic warning? Misinterpreting the awkward gifts, Rosaline believes her worth to her father remains nothing more than a casual afterthought. She refuses to hope again. Handing the roses back, she coldly commands her maid, "Throw them all away." When the butler announces her carriage is ready, the maids whisper about her dark attire. She had commanded them to destroy the drab garments Carmel forced upon her, leaving only black gowns. Black is for mourning, but on her it looks like power. A senior maid quickly shushes the gossipers, recalling the butler's strict warnings to mind their tongues. Honestly, smart move on her part. Remembering Carmel's fate, she warns that Rosaline sees through everything and will not tolerate mistakes. Dressed in a majestic black gown and a broad red-lined hat, Rosaline steps outside with unwavering composure. The timid girl of the past is gone. She arrives at the imperial palace of Dianitas, ready to fulfill her promise. Stepping inside the majestic imperial palace once more, Rosaline glides past the staring servants with quiet poise. Her mind wanders to the man waiting inside. How long has it really been since she last laid eyes on the third prince? The doors swing open to reveal third prince Arma Dianitas. Caught completely off guard, he leaps up with a bright blush, stammering his welcome. Honestly, he seems utterly smitten with her. Taking her gloved hand, he gently guides her inside, insisting they drop formalities. Settling gracefully onto the sofa, "I apologize for causing you worry as your fiancé." Arma sighs with instant relief. But her subtle toned shift catches him off guard as she prepares to deliver her true request. Meeting his hopeful gaze, Rose delivers the quiet bombshell without a single trace of hesitation. "We break off our engagement?" Her calm proposition hangs frozen in the air, leaving the unsuspecting prince completely speechless. Sitting quietly across from her fiancé, Rosaline casually asks if they should break off their engagement. She even offers to arrange a meeting with the emperor to take the blame and explain everything herself. He flinches in total shock, stammering to ask if he frustrated her or did something wrong. Does he really believe he's at fault? She averts her gaze, coldly insisting it is just her own selfish decision. Before she can finish her sentence, he suddenly drops to his knees right in front of her sofa. He desperately grips her hands, tears spilling past his glasses as he clings to her dress. "Please, just tell me what you want instead." He promises to do whatever it takes, begging her to give him at least one real reason. Rosaline falters, completely caught off guard by his fierce refusal. In her past life, he abandoned everything, running away with her and dying to protect her. She owes him an unpayable debt. He deserves to spend his life beside someone gentle in a warm flower field, not tied to someone cold and dangerous like her. She knows she must cut their ties. Hardening her resolve, Rosaline lets out a quiet breath to steady her heart. She leans down close, casting a frost-cold gaze right into his tearful eyes. "Please don't be so pathetic." The harsh words slice through his composure. She intentionally acts like a heartless villain, creating a cruel divide to push him away for his own safety. She pulls her dress out of his trembling hands, declaring her ideal partner is someone fierce, masculine, and entirely different from him. Asking him to let her go, she watches his world shatter. He stares up at her in utter heartbreak, tears streaming as he chokes out her name. Can he really bring himself to let her walk away after this? Rosaline turns on her heel, coldly declaring she has no further business with him if he cannot arrange an audience with the emperor. Panicking at her sudden departure, he reaches out and catches the hem of her dark gown. Desperately, he stammers that he will meet with his father if that is what she truly wants. She offers a quiet thanks for his cooperation, yet he hangs his head in defeat, insisting he was simply lacking. Her icy composure hides a painful truth. She knows he is not at fault. Her heart breaks for him, but her resolve remains firm. Images of his past devotion flood her mind. He was the one man who stayed by her side when she couldn't trust a single soul, offering unconditional warmth in her coldest moments. Pushing him away is the only way to save him. Is this painful separation really the best choice? She bids him farewell, but he desperately reaches out again, softly asking, "Can't we stay as friends at least?" Rosaline shuts him down without hesitation. She warns that continuing to see him would only tarnish her reputation, turning her back on his heartbreak before stepping toward the exit. Desperate to fix the misunderstanding, he rushes out after her. He calls her name across the gilded hallway, begging her to stop and listen to him. Her steady footsteps never slow down. She walks on without looking back once. Before he can catch up, a condescending voice echoes through the corridor. Second Prince Yuldian Dianitas steps into their path, clapping his hands with a venomous grin. He mockingly calls them the world's most perfectly matched, low-class pair. Honestly, nobody invited him into this conversation. Yuldian openly ridicules his younger brother as pathetic before turning his sharp gaze toward Rosaline. Stepping uncomfortably close, he reaches out and tilts her chin upward, smirking at how pretty she has grown. Rosaline glares right back, completely unfazed by his arrogance. Second Prince Yuldian mockingly admires Rosaline, insolently reaching out to stroke her gown. But her fiancé surprisingly steps forward, grabbing Yuldian's wrist with trembling hands. "Wait, brother. That is disrespectful to her," he stammers, desperately standing up to his abusive older brother for the very first time. Yuldian's blue eyes instantly flash with vicious anger. Infuriated that his cowardly younger brother would dare talk back to him, he brutally strikes him right across the cheek. He violently grabs the young prince by his dark hair, shoving him down onto the cold floor without a second thought. "I don't care if she's your fiancé, I do whatever I want," Yuldian roars in a terrifying rage. He ruthlessly kicks his helpless brother to the ground, stomping on him while demanding absolute submission. Seriously, how can anyone treat their own blood with such shameless cruelty? He refuses to give up. In a sudden surge of bravery, the young prince hurls himself forward and tackles Yuldian around the waist with everything he has. "Rosaline does not belong to you. She's my person," he screams, clinging tightly as Yuldian thrashes him. He desperately yells for Rosaline to run while she can. Watching him take a brutal beating just to shield her, Rosaline's icy facade completely crumbles. She gazes down at him in silent heartbreak, calling him a foolish man under her breath. She realizes he is still a noble soul who simply cannot turn a blind eye to injustice. "Stop it right now!" Rosaline's authoritative command echoes down the gilded hallway. She steps directly between them. Placing her gloved hand against Yuldian's chest, she freezes the tyrant's heart in total shock before extending a gentle hand to her bruised fiancé on the floor. "Your Highness, please get up." Rosaline turns back to her bewildered fiancé, softly reassuring him that he no longer needs to arrange a formal audience with the Emperor. She has already figured out a much faster, far more direct way to get the monarch's full attention. Her sudden change of demeanor leaves him completely dazed and silent. Refusing to let anyone mistreat the gentleman who protected her in her past life, Rosaline steps up to the abusive tyrant. She winds back her arm with fierce determination. Honestly, I could watch her smack him forever. Surrounding servants cover their mouths in absolute horror as her blow lands. Clutching his reddened cheek, Yuldian screams in humiliation that she just committed treason against the royal crown. Rosaline remains completely unfazed by his furious threats. She simply smooths down her lace-black glove while staring at him. "Why did you mess with my fiancé? It upset me." As shocked whispers ripple down the gilded corridor, Yuldian fumes with rage. He viciously ridicules his younger brother's lineage, branding them both as low-class mongrels who do not belong in the palace. Does this arrogant bully really think royal blood excuses his vile behavior? Rosaline delivers a second slap. Pain radiates through his jaw as she flexes her gloved fingers. "Oh my hand slipped." She calmly compares him to a foolish, barking dog that desperately needs discipline. Blinded by utter fury, Yuldian vac and lunges forward to strike her face with everything he has. Rosaline closes her eyes calmly. She refuses to dodge his oncoming blow, standing her ground without a single trace of fear. Taking a physical hit from the second prince will leave undeniable proof of his cruelty. It will back the Emperor into a corner, forcing him to intervene without covering up his son's crimes. Will her dangerous gamble pay off? Rosaline braces for the blow, but the expected pain never comes. Opening her eyes, she finds her fiancé shielding her, taking the brutal hit directly to his own face. Glasses shattered on the floor, he turns to her with a swollen, bloody lip and breathlessly asks if she is all right. Does he really care about her safety more than his own? Taking out a handkerchief, Rosaline gently dabs at the blood on his mouth, softly scolding him for jumping into harm's way. He only offers a tender, quiet smile. He tells her he could never stand by and watch her get hurt, proving his selfless devotion once again. Before Yuldian can resume his tirade, The emperor's chief butler steps into the hallway to deliver a royal decree. Smirking in triumph, Yuldian eagerly demands to hear how Rosaline will be punished for treason. But his jaw drops when the butler reveals the emperor has placed Yuldian himself under immediate probation. Blinded by rage, Yuldian thrusts an accusing finger at Rosaline, shouting that her assault was attempted murder. The butler remains impassive. Bowing respectfully, he instructs the second prince to obey the monarch's command without another word of protest. Honestly, talk about a sore loser. Yuldian stomps his boots and storms down the grand corridor, bitterly cursing his father and screaming at the shocked servants for daring to watch his humiliation. Once the shouting fades, the butler announces that His Majesty has ordered an immediate audience. The young prince lets out a soft sigh of relief, offering to go right away to explain the situation to his father. The person His Majesty is seeking is not the third prince. It is Rosaline. The butler's unexpected words leave her fiancé in total disbelief. Her dangerous gamble worked. Taking down the second prince was worth every single slap. A knowing smile touches Rosaline's lips as her risky gamble pays off completely. "Great," she says smoothly, politely urging the chief butler to lead the way to the imperial throne room. The emperor's summons arrives with absolute authority. His butler steps forward to announce that His Imperial Majesty is not looking for the third prince today, but rather Lady Bellion herself. Standing beside her flushed fiancé, Rosaline accepts the unexpected summons without missing a single beat. She looks directly at the messenger and smiles. "Very well, please guide me to His Imperial Majesty." The third prince stammers in panic, begging to tag along by her side, but Rosaline shuts him down cold. She advises him to see a physician immediately, pointing out how embarrassing it would be for her fiancé to be seen in such a state. Left behind in the corridor, the prince clutches his burning face in utter humiliation. Can you blame him for feeling crushed? Inside the private chamber, Emperor Severus Jindianatas rests casually on his throne-like sofa. He taps his jeweled rings against his chin as he greets her with a sharp, discerning eye. Her demeanor has completely changed. He sees it right away. Rosaline offers a formal imperial greeting, bowing respectfully before the sovereign. The emperor bursts into sudden laughter at her audacity. For a young lady who used to prioritize safety above all else, she certainly made a spectacular scene in his castle. He taps his fingers lightly against the table. What could she possibly be planning now? Rosaline fixes her sharp red gaze on him and requests a private audience. Honestly, I love a woman who gets straight to the point. Placing a gloved hand against her chest, her voice never wavers. I wish to break off my engagement with the third prince. The emperor remains remarkably calm. He motions for his head attendant to serve tea to the young lady before ordering everyone to leave the room. With the doors firmly shut behind them, the emperor asks her to explain why she wants to sever ties with his son. Rosaline leans across the table without a single trace of hesitation. She delivers her proposition directly to the ruler of the empire. If you permit the annulment, I will resolve 2 of your majesty's headaches for you. Rosaline lays out the emperor's exact headaches without missing a single detail. Delicate border negotiations with Kaluta and a suspicious surge of missing person cases across the empire. Severus squints at her in amusement, softly mocking how high-level palace secrets keep leaking out to a young noblewoman. She knows everything. She cannot reveal her knowledge comes from memories of a past life in a parallel world. Instead, Rosaline claims she awakened a rare power right after her recent ordeal. Severus rests his chin on his hand, his eyes gleaming with sudden intrigue. If it is an ability, does that mean you have become an abyss? Rosaline confirms it without flinching. Since abyss powers awaken at random during moments of extreme emotional distress, her recent suicide disturbance serves as the ideal excuse. Her lie works seamlessly. Delighted by her secret reveal, the emperor claps his hands together in cheerful applause. She flatters him by noting he is the very first person she has informed. Severus laughs, yet he presses her directly for real answers. However, what kind of ability do you possess that you claim you can solve problems I cannot? Rosaline takes a calm, deliberate sip of tea before replying. She drops the real revelation across the table. It isn't a lack of capability holding him back, but the secret cleansing operation he is quietly preparing behind closed doors. Her sharp red gaze locks onto his shifting expression. The pleasant atmosphere in the chamber grows dangerously heavy. The emperor's friendly facade shatters in an instant. Severus fixes her with a dark, chilling stare, his pleasant warmth vanishing entirely. I must have hidden the information quite thoroughly. You are making things difficult. Rosaline sets her teacup down without flinching. She finally drew out his true face. History calls him the clown emperor because he hides behind harmless smiles while taking a step back from every major issue. Honestly, I have to respect a ruler who plays the fool this well. But can Rosalind really pull off a deal with a sovereign who hides such a deadly edge? Rosalind lays out her detailed knowledge of the future imperial purge, warning that 2/3 of the nobility will lose their lives or assets when the emperor draws his blade. She boldly requests that he spare the direct descendants of the Bellion family, including her reckless uncle who is already slated for pruning. Severus scoffs at her nerve, asking if she isn't pushing her luck by demanding family protection on top of a broken engagement. But Rosalind doesn't flinch. She calmly reminds him that the Bellion duchy will remain loyal even without a political ring connecting their houses. Is she playing with fire? Severus strokes his jeweled rings with a sly smile, thoroughly entertained by her proposal. If you resolve the matters to my satisfaction, I will do as you ask. He teasingly wonders why she dislikes his handsome son, but Rosalind dismisses the prince with smooth, polite flattery. She demands absolute secrecy regarding her awakened abyss ability and everything discussed in their private meeting. Severus cheerfully promises to keep her secret. Offers an apology for the second prince's earlier behavior. Rosalind cuts in to request one final favor instead. Stepping into the quiet corridor, Rosalind closes the heavy doors behind her and lets out a long breath. Holding her ground against the dangerous ruler took every ounce of composure she possessed. Suddenly, a voice startles her. The third prince is hovering right beside her without making a single sound. Honestly, where did he even come from? The prince beams brightly at her, proudly showing off the fresh medical bandage applied to his cheek, just as she insisted earlier. He gazes up at her with eager, hopeful eyes, softly asking, "Am I a fiancé who is not shameful to you now?" He steps directly into her personal space, closing the distance until his blushing face is just inches from hers. He gently asks her to check the bandage with her own fingers. Rosalind slowly raises her gloved hand toward his cheek. Will she fall for his irresistible puppy eyes? The third prince leans blissfully into her touch, closing his eyes as if intoxicated by her sudden closeness. But Rosalind offers no warmth. She coldly reveals, "Earlier I let myself be hit on purpose." When he stammers in utter bewilderment, she calmly explains that the second prince's assault constitutes treason and attempted regicide. He stammers in panic, insisting she was only shielding him from harm. Rosalind shuts him down without a shred of pity. She warns him that even if she faces danger, a weak prince like him cannot alter her fate. He cannot help her. Turning on her heel, she walks away, leaving him completely shattered in the corridor. His quiet apology floats through the air, softly asking if they might meet again. Rosalind pauses for just a single heartbeat before offering a cool, clipped confirmation. She knows his isolation resulted from her own past stubbornness. As her footsteps fade away, the prince retreats into the empty chamber alone. Will he ever earn her true trust? Rosalind strides purposefully down that palace hall, her dramatic black hat sweeping behind her. Heavy footsteps approach, accompanied by the distinct thud of a walking cane. A distinguished gentleman calls out, wondering why the young lady moves in such a hurry. She was waiting for him. Garin Wilbred greets her with an elegant, knowing smile while resting on his cane. Honestly, I love a woman who keeps such powerful contacts hidden right in plain sight. Another piece of her grand scheme falls into place. Meanwhile, the third prince enters the imperial audience room and bows low before his father. Emperor Severus Gindianitas greets his son with sharp sarcasm. "You don't even show your faces unless you need something." The emperor sees right through him. Gently touching his cheek bandage, the prince stammers out a meek apology. Severus dismisses the attendants and locks eyes with his son. He orders the boy to stop playing around, scoffing at empty words that lack heart. Honestly, this castle is full of master actors. Is everyone hiding a secret? The third prince flushes red, stammering with a helpless smile that he is far too slow-witted to understand. He plays the harmless fool perfectly, but his father sees right through the innocent act. Severus waves a hand, amused by how both his son and Rosalind hide behind clever excuses. Since he never summoned his youngest, he demands to know why the prince came seeking his audience. The prince tightly grips his sleeve. The prince slowly pushes back his dark hair. In an instant, his timid facade completely shatters, revealing a piercing, ruthless aura that radiates dangerous power. Looking his father directly in the eye, his voice turns deadly cold. "Did you talk about with the young lady?" He was hiding his true face all along. As the dark-haired noble carefully pours a fresh cup of tea, he quietly serves the lord seated across from him. Settling back onto the velvet sofa, his demeanor remains entirely composed. Yet beneath that polished stillness, tension lingers softly in the room. Reaching for his cup, he casually asks, "What did you talk about with the young lady?" The Lord offhandedly reveals that she was instructed to attend the imperial banquet. With a light shrug, he adds, "She also said she wanted to call off her engagement to you." Hearing this, his cup stops right at his lips. He freezes. He presses for an explanation. Why would his lord simply agree to break off their betrothal? The Lord calmly admits that she offered to solve a pressing issue, weighing her value far higher than expected. Unsatisfied by the vague answer, he leans forward and asks what her exact proposal was. The Lord takes a slow sip, refusing to share details since they agreed on strict secrecy. But after enjoying the hand-brewed tea, holding back information feels a little unfair. If he drank my tea and kept secrets, I'd want an answer too. The Lord relents, revealing her two promises, managing negotiations with Kaluta and investigating the sudden disappearance case. A quiet shock settles over him as he murmurs under his breath, "Certainly. Something about the young lady has changed. She changed completely. She used to be too timid to hold eye contact." As steam rises quietly from the cup on the table, he tries to dismiss his growing suspicion. If her bold shift causes no harm, does her secret really matter? Still, the doubt lingers in his mind. The Lord smiles, announcing that Lady Bellion will join the diplomatic delegation traveling to Kaluta next month. Without a single moment of hesitation, he looks up and firmly declares, "Then I'll go too." He refuses to let her step into the unknown alone. His lord quietly chuckles, reminding him that taking this mission means carrying full responsibility if anything goes wrong. But grand political power holds no real weight in his mind. He bluntly insists, "I have no real interest in the crown." Ambition doesn't drive his choices. His focus remains completely fixed on protecting her. Turning sharply, he presses to know who she requested to accompany her instead. The Lord's answer strikes like a sudden chill across the room. His own brother, Yuldian, will join the diplomatic delegation in his place. Why would she deliberately choose him over her own betrothed? Suspicion quietly takes root in his mind. Meanwhile, Rosaline transforms the Empire's most exclusive boutique into her very own spending playground. She glides through the opulent showroom, ordering entire display cases of fine jewelry, designer footwear, and tailored outfits, without checking a single price tag. The boutique owner stands overwhelmed behind endless mountains of packaged gifts. Talk about top-tier retail therapy. Bring out the red dress too, and the hat beside it. She issues sharp commands with supreme confidence while store assistants scramble to keep up. Where did the rumor of a timid, stuttering girl even come from? Every piece she carelessly selects turns out to be the absolute finest treasure in the boutique. She isn't just shopping, she's taking complete control. Sitting comfortably in a plush armchair, Marquis Jaron Wilbred observes her breathtaking shopping spree with an amused smile. He casually asks, "Are you saying you'll buy all of this?" Turning her formidable former enemy into a personal endless wallet feels like absolute perfection. He can only watch her in awe. Fleur Boutique famously operates on strict reservations, never making private house calls unless summoned directly by the imperial family itself. But when a wealthy customer offers to empty out an entire store, even the proudest merchant yields. Baron Fleur bows deferentially before her, hanging on her every word. Rosaline holds all the power now. Now that her shopping spree has brightened her mood, Jaron invites her to visit his estate, noting they have plenty of pressing matters to discuss. Turning back over her shoulder, her crimson eyes glint with quiet calculation. She quietly agrees to his invitation. Overjoyed by her massive purchases, Baron Fleur offers to design a custom dress as a special gift. Rosaline graciously accepts, reminding him that exclusive fashion houses hear an awful lot of secrets. Fleur bows deferentially, assuring her that his establishment keeps its lips strictly sealed at all times. When payment is mentioned, Marquis Jaron casually signs a check. Baron Fleur stares in absolute shock, exclaiming, "This is the legendary blank check I've only ever heard about." Jaron even writes an extra 100 million as an advance. Fleur stands completely stunned. Honestly, where can I find a wallet like him? Stunned by such incredible generosity, the boutique owner bows low and promises private house calls whenever they summon him. As the couple steps outside, the entire staff bows in deep respect to bid them farewell. Who wouldn't enjoy top-tier VIP service like this? Right at the doorway, Rosaline turns around to offer a cryptic piece of advice. She tells Fleur to switch his southern fabric suppliers over troubling rumors, catching him completely off guard. He asks what she means. The door closes firmly. Escorting her out to the waiting carriage, Jaren gently holds her gloved hand to guide her step. He looks at her with an amused smile and asks, "Have you decided to become a righteous and kind person in this lifetime?" Rosaline nonchalantly reveals her true motive. Having just paid in advance, it would be a shame if the shop got shut down by a drug scandal a year from now. She isn't playing hero. She is simply protecting her financial investment, leaving him with another mysterious glimpse into her future knowledge. "I was kind to begin with." Rosaline tilts her head under her ornate hat, flashing a cool, knowing smirk. Is she genuinely playing the hero, or is there a sharper motive behind her advice? Personally, I wouldn't trust that calm smile for a single second. Memories of their ruthless past resurface. Bleeding inside a cold dungeon cell, she stared up at him with unyielding hatred. Even when beating him down under her blade in battle, she never took his life. Jaren reads her dark memories with an effortless smirk. Jaren teasingly claims that a kind person could never kill anyone. But Rosalind fires right back. She warns that righteous souls become the most dangerous once their sense of justice gets shattered. Nodding in quiet agreement, he joins her inside the luxurious carriage. As their carriage rolls gracefully through sunlit city streets, Jaren casually asks how it felt to die. She dryly admits it was refreshing. Just when she had decided she didn't need to keep living, he dragged her into this bizarre timeline. Jaren finds this parallel world completely absurd. The rumor of a timid, stuttering Rosaline Bellion makes him laugh out loud. Who could ever outtalk her? Setting laughter aside, Rosaline turns serious. She explains that after quietly investigating this realm, she confirmed both worlds share striking similarities. To make full use of her past knowledge, she must understand every rule of this current world first. Her sharp crimson gaze locks onto him. She reminds him they were never allies, only ruthless rivals who wanted to drive blades through each other's throats. Why exactly did you end up all the way here? She knows he didn't cross worlds by accident. He came with a secret purpose. Rosaline delivers a revelation about this parallel timeline. In this world, the Marquess is still alive. She asks Jaren directly if repairing his bond with the Marquess was his true reason for crossing worlds. He leans back, sinking into quiet thought as her words linger. Curious about their soul transfer, Rosaline asks what happened to the original owner of her current body. Jaren clarifies that parallel world transfer requires the body to already be deceased, leaving the original soul at rest while keeping their form intact. Jaren dryly defends himself, claiming, "I never once thought about driving a blade through your throat." He accuses her of harboring all the dark intent. Brushing off his teasing banter, her crimson eyes remain fixed on his hidden motives. He pushes further, wondering how her dead soul transferred alongside his tracking ability. What is her theory? She stays silent. Rosaline sits motionless across from him, refusing to give away her conclusions so easily. When she shuts him down with a simple refusal, Jaren sighs in mock disappointment. He reminds her that paying 1,000,000,000 wulong at the boutique earned him at least a little entertaining chatter to pass the time. Relenting slightly, Rosaline glances back and agrees to share her suspicion. She drops a chilling question that cuts right through his playful mood. "Garen, did you make a contract with a demon?" He freezes. Dark energy surges around them as Jaren's calm composure completely shatters. A sinister grin breaks across his face while sharp fangs glint behind his hand. The mask falls. Did he really sell his soul? Honestly, I get chills watching him finally show his true colors. Rosaline confronts Garen directly, asking, "Garen, did you make a contract with a demon?" Garen flinches slightly as she presses him. She distinctly remembers green flames right before her death, a mark of higher demonic magic. Creating a parallel world and pulling a soul across dimensions goes far beyond simple tracking skills. Could his power truly stem from a forbidden demonic pact? Garen quickly recovers his composure and scoffs, leaning back comfortably in his chair. He chuckles, asking how she can be so certain based on such a flimsy guess when she has barely seen his skills. But Rosaline holds her ground without flinching. To her, the exact source of his dark power is all that matters. Instead of denying the heavy charge, Garen lets a sinister, sharp-fanged grin slowly spread across his face. He covers his lips, tauntingly asking, "Well, what do you think? Honest talk." This guy's creepy villain smile gives me absolute chills. Yet Rosaline sits completely unbothered, meeting his dark gaze with icy calm. Their tense confrontation yields very little truth. Just a few days later, harmless gossip snowballs into a massive scandal across the capital. Newspaper headlines blare about a dangerous rendezvous between Marquis Garen and the duchy's princess. Sensational portraits show them locked in a dramatic embrace, questioning if his marriage is crumbling. Did someone intentionally leak their boutique outing? At the mansion, the purple-haired boutique owner bows nervously, begging Roseline to believe their shop never leaks client secrets. Roseline calmly turns the newspaper page, assuring him she does not blame his staff. Loose lips are everywhere in noble circles. She already expected this drama the moment she let Garen walk beside her. With a quick wave of her hand, she dismisses the tearful, overly grateful shopkeeper from her room. Once left in total silence, Roseline rests her head against her hand and sighs. Using Garen's endless fortune out of pure anger got slightly out of hand. But how will she handle this spiraling rumor now? Roseline actually views this sensational newspaper scandal as a remarkably fortunate turn of events for her future plans. If Prince Arma is thoroughly appalled by the shocking headlines, using the public affair as a valid excuse to break off her unwanted engagement becomes remarkably easy. Furthermore, Marquis Garen will be forced to suppress the rumors on his own to repair his crumbling marriage. That saves her all the trouble of handling noble gossip herself. Stepping gracefully through the grand wooden doors of the dining hall, Roseline prepares to clarify the entire situation to avoid any unnecessary misunderstandings. However, the suffocating atmosphere around the long dining table feels colder than ever before. She quietly announces her return as she enters the room, yet not a single relative offers her a warm welcome back. Talk about an uncomfortably tense family dinner. Before she can even settle into her seat, her father violently slams his hand onto the dining table, roaring in absolute fury. What exactly are you lacking that you'd go after a married man? Sitting right beside him, Ian Bellion, the duchy's infamous second son and reckless loose cannon, leans back with a glass of red wine, snickering mockingly at her apparent downfall. He truly loves watching her fall into trouble. Roseline observes Ian silently, recalling his tragic history from her previous life. He was a prime target during the imperial family's brutal purge, yet the emperor kept him alive as promised while their noble house collapsed into ruin. Having already kicked out the traitorous butler Carmel, Roseline remains entirely confident she can alter destiny, protect the duchy, and secure the chance to save her brother. She will not fail. When her father angrily demands to know why she remains silent, Roseline calmly defends herself, explaining that she and Garen share no inappropriate relationship. But the moment she casually calls him Garen, her brother flinches in utter disbelief. Since when were they close enough to drop formal titles? Roseline quickly adjusts her wording, maintaining her composure as she politely refers to him as Marquis Garen. Her brother suddenly rises from his chair, frantically arguing that Garen is a dangerous man whose true intentions are entirely unreadable. Roseline stares back at him with growing suspicion. Why is he suddenly taking such an intense interest in her life? In her past life, he was always cold and detached, never bothering with anything she did. Does he think she dragged the family name through the mud? Roseline quietly holds her ground, knowing she has never done anything to diminish their prestige. Roseline confronts her brother's sudden deluge of gifts, pointing out he never cared before. Before anyone can process her words, she drops a bombshell right at the dinner table. I am breaking my engagement with the third prince. The entire room freezes in utter shock. Her father immediately questions if the emperor permitted such a bold move. Knowing the emperor patiently hunts to consolidate imperial power, he doubts an annulment would ever be allowed. But Roseline holds her gaze. She quietly confirms she made a direct promise to His Majesty. She explains her deal. If she secures the trade negotiations with Kaluta and resolves the capital's missing persons cases, the emperor will grant her freedom. So it looks like I'll be leaving for Kaluta soon. Her announcement leaves her family utterly flabbergasted. Can she truly solve this alone? Roseline clears up the scandal, explaining Marquis Garen stepped up as her escort to make amends for a past insult. To compensate her, she forced him to replace her entire wardrobe. But when she mentions her closet was empty, Ian leans forward in total bewilderment. She nonchalantly reveals that Carmel spent years stealing and destroying all her belongings. Her brother winces in guilt while her father roars in fury over the servant's audacity. Yet Roseline remains calm. She tells them there is no reason to get angry now. She remembers how the original princess hid her suffering out of fear, staying silent in a duchy where no one supported her. Having survived death, Roseline fears nothing. Ian rubs his temples in utter exasperation, asking, "Why are you talking about this like it's someone else's story?" Announcing that everything has been settled, Roseline pushes back her chair and calmly exits the room. Honestly, watching her walk out on them is so satisfying. She leaves her family sitting in heavy silence, completely unable to stop her. As Rosaline turns to walk away from the table, total panic grips her father's face. He sits frozen as cold sweat drips down his pale cheek. He realizes her departure is no simple threat. She is truly preparing to cut all ties with the family. He reaches a desperate hand toward her retreating figure, begging her not to leave. Bitter grief washes over him as he recalls every person he has lost. He was powerless to save them. Everyone I ever loved slipped through my fingers like grains of sand. A tragic secret he hid for decades finally comes to light. He was born as an abyss awakened carrying the deadly poison attribute. The moment he came into the world, his uncontrollable power killed his mother. Years later, that exact same curse took his beloved wife. Terrified that his lethal aura would harm Rosaline too, he intentionally kept his distance throughout her entire childhood, yet his choice only caused deeper harm. By staying away, he passively allowed Carmel to abuse her trust and destroy her happiness. He thought he was protecting her, but he failed entirely. Seeing a parent finally face their own disastrous mistakes always hits hard. Sinking deep into a dark ocean of sorrow, he realizes his cowardly distance only multiplied her suffering. He cannot bear to lose her. "You are all I have left, Rosaline." Determined not to let her leave, he struggles against his fate. Is he really going to let her walk away forever? His intense emotional turmoil shatters his internal seal, causing his dormant poison attribute to violently erupt around him. Toxic purple aura surges as he clutches his head in torment. Will Rosaline turn back before his own dark power consumes him? Rosaline's father clutches his head in agony as a tide of dark, poisonous energy surges uncontrollably from his body. He cries out in torment, terrified of losing his daughter, just as he lost everything in his painful past. Does he really believe isolating himself will protect her? Rosaline gasps in sudden realization. The toxic purple haze rapidly engulfs the grand banquet hall, leaving relatives coughing and staggering backwards in panic. Rosaline watches the sudden chaos unfold in disbelief. She recognizes this lethal aura as her father's long-suppressed poison power exploding out of control. Why did his hidden ability manifest at this exact moment? Dark corrosive stains creep across his hands as his strength gives out completely, forcing him onto his knees in pain. He trembles in deep despair, horrified that Rosaline is witnessing him in such a pathetic state. He convinces himself that her growing hatred will keep her at a distance, ensuring she remains safe from his toxic power. Instead of backing away, Rosaline turns around and marches boldly toward the dangerous cloud of poison. Her relatives grab her arms to hold her back, frantically shouting that stepping closer means certain death. She yanks her arm free without hesitating for a single second. She coldly commands, "Let go of me." She turns on her relatives with burning fury, refusing to let them lock her father away in isolation once again. I cannot help but admire her fierce courage right now. Rosaline forcefully shouts back at them, "It is because you do nothing but avoid it that the problem is never resolved." Ignoring their frantic warnings, Rosaline strides directly into the dense purple haze swirling around her collapsed father. She moves forward with absolute focus, stepping past the scattered debris on the floor. Can her unwavering resolve reach him before the volatile energy consumes them both? Rosaline drops to her knees beside him, bringing her face right next to his trembling frame. He gasps in overwhelming shock at her presence. She looks directly into his anguish and speaks firmly. "Father, relax your body as much as possible and listen to me closely. Because if you do not control that energy, I will die." Standing unbothered inside the dangerous toxic haze, swirling through the hall, Rosaline gazes down at her trembling father with absolute composure. She poses a cryptic puzzle that cuts right through his sudden panic. "Father, if someone who is immune to every poison in the world died of poisoning, why do you think that is?" His eyes widen in complete bewilderment as his hands clutch the purple-stained floor in desperation. He cannot begin to grasp her true intentions. Rosaline calmly answers her own riddle. A body only succumbs to toxin when it completely gives up on detoxifying itself. Her quiet suspicions are fully confirmed right before her eyes. In her previous life, he did not perish simply because the enemy's poison was fatal. He succumbed because he had given up on living entirely after losing everyone he cherished. To him, remaining alive was nothing but an endless curse. Is there anything sadder than that? Rosaline looks directly into his tearful face and speaks her long-buried pain aloud. "I thought you hated me, Father. I always believed I was nothing but a trivial existence to you." Her quiet words break his heart. Tears spill down his face as he gasps in anguish. That cannot. Desperate to fix her heartbreaking misunderstanding, he reaches toward her, blurting out, Rosalind, you have no idea how much. But Rosaline does not wait for his emotional speech. She uncorks a glass vial with lightning speed and grabs his jaw firm. You really have to admire her ruthless efficiency right now. Without dropping her intense gaze, she pours the glowing liquid directly down his open throat. He sputters in shock, coughing out, "Well, what did you just feed me?" The dark, swirling purple haze instantly begins to dissolve as the powerful potion takes immediate hold of his surging energy. He slumps heavily into her lap, sinking into a deep, peaceful slumber as his chaotic aura vanishes. Rosaline looks down at the empty flask of Dreamer, an ultra-potent sedative her father was destined to invent years in the future. Armed with detailed knowledge from her past life, she synthesized it in advance to neutralize his out-of-control abyss. Her dangerous gamble paid off completely. Rosaline takes control of the chaotic aftermath, instructing the anxious servants to carry her sleeping father safely to his bedchamber and tidy the grand room. Kneeling before her, the maids quickly replace her damaged shoes and ruined hem. The corrosive poison had thoroughly scorched them. She silently counts her blessings. Her reckless gamble could have easily turned fatal. Glancing across the hall, she catches her relatives staring back in utter astonishment. They stand paralyzed in disbelief, unable to grasp how she single-handedly subdued a lethal aura. Rosaline calmly assures them that her father will regain consciousness shortly. Did she really forget they were standing there the whole time? Since the family is assembled, she seizes the moment to offer a crucial business tip. She advises buying the Nolang mine at the upcoming auction, anticipating Marcus Guerin's heavy bid. Her relatives break into mock laughter, scoffing that the territory yields nothing but cheap amber. Are they really going to throw away billions on her whim? Rosaline simply rests her chin on her hand, completely indifferent to their mockery. They can follow her advice or miss out. Her grandfather approaches her, crossing his arms with a stern yet gentle expression. He scolds her cold tone and urges her to address him simply as grandfather. He wistfully notes how other nobles brag about affectionate granddaughters who shamelessly squander their grandfather's wealth. I love how badly he wants her to rely on him. Rosaline does not hesitate for a second. She meets his gaze directly and asks, "Do you truly wish for me to behave in such a manner?" Her blunt question strikes him like a physical blow. He gapes at her in sudden, sweating panic. Talk about immediate regret. Desperate to repair their bond, he leans closer and pleads with her to share her troubles in the future. He softly insists, "Ask your grandfather for help." Yet Rosaline remains entirely unaffected. She dryly responds, complaining would only result in two people being miserable. With an unshakable poise, she reminds him that she already solved everything by herself. Her grandfather clutches his forehead in dramatic despair, sorrowfully lamenting that he was simply never destined to have a sweet, affectionate granddaughter who relies on him. Rosaline does not waste a single second soothing his bruised ego. She calmly addresses the assembled family, announcing her upcoming journey to Kaluta and her firm decision to stay well within Marquis Guerin's protective orbit. Her silver-haired relative immediately flies into a dramatic panic, shouting that Kaluta is a horrific land of man-eating savages who will consume a girl like her alive. Rosaline merely tilts her head with a teasing smirk. She asks him flat out, "You do not actually believe such nonsensical rumors that even a child would laugh at, do you?" His face turns bright red. Honestly, watching her tease him is absolute gold. Her uncle attempts to intervene, firmly voicing his own objection to her living independently. But Rosaline shuts him down instantly, explaining that Marquis Guerin has already promised to supply all her escorts. Her cousin loses all composure at the Marquis's name. He marches up and thrusts his finger right in her face, aggressively demanding, "Just what are you to Marquis Guerin?" Rosaline confirms it without a shred of hesitation. Does she secretly enjoy provoking them? In truth, having traversed parallel worlds alongside him, their fate is tied together in ways no one here could ever comprehend. She coolly ends the discussion. With immaculate grace, she offers a polite farewell to step away from their endless squabbling. Lifting the elegant hem of her floral dress, she turns toward the exit to attend to her pressing business. Her relative refuses to let her walk away so easily. He chases her down the corridor, bellowing that she is wet behind the ears and ignoring an elder before forcefully grabbing her shoulder. "Touch her at your own risk." Instead of pulling away, Rosaline turns around and steps right into his personal space, gently placing her hand against his chest. She softly drops a deadly secret, revealing that her second uncle is a high-ranking member of Magroxa, with hidden proof marked on the sole of his foot. He gasps in utter terror. She flashes a radiant smile, whispering, Be sure to check it yourself. Rosaline offers a radiant parting smile, cheerfully wishing her relatives a lovely family moment before turning toward the door. Talk about immaculate timing. She steps into the grand hallway, leaving them squabbling without a single regret. I love her ruthless style. Driven by sudden suspicion, Ian frantically checks for the secret mark, pulling back the second uncle's sleeve to expose the dark snake tattoo of Magroxa. Caught red-handed, the uncle turns a deadly glare onto Ian, growling, "You had better explain yourself very well, Ian." With her family instantly turning on each other, Rosaline walks away completely victorious. Will anyone ever dare to cross her again? Deep within a dimly lit underground chamber, 5 hooded figures sit quietly around a heavy stone table. News of the 12th bishop's capture at the Bellian duchy has sent shockwaves through their secret organization, exposing their hidden operative. Their prized asset was caught red-handed. How could a plan so meticulously constructed fall apart so quickly? Without missing a single beat, the Dark Leader orders the bishop's quiet disposal while keeping strict watch over the compromised young master. But his subordinate bowing low before him delivers alarming news. Security around the duchy is airtight. To make matters worse, everyone entering the dungeon carries soulstones capable of identifying active abilities. Strict information lockdowns make it nearly impossible for them to assess the full damage right away. The messenger apologizes profusely for the delay, yet the master grits his teeth in fury. What on earth happened there? He demands answers immediately. The Bellion Duchy plays the single most crucial role in their grand design. They spent immense effort preparing the duchy like a fragile butterfly pinned neatly inside a glass display frame. Now that delicate trap is crumbling. Seeking reassurance, the leader inquires about the other noble families across the empire. His subordinate confirms that every house outside of Bellion has remained completely quiet for now. The master issues a ruthless command without a second thought. Silence that useless fool before he opens his mouth. To this shadowy syndicate, failure means instant execution. Their dark goal remains absolute: to drag the noble beings in the heavens down to the dirt and trample them into dust. A glowing celestial hand reaches down from starry skies, symbolizing their fanatical crusade. Followers are commanded never to hesitate, laying down their lives when the moment arrives. I honestly get chills listening to these cultists chant. Their master insists that the day of ultimate realization is close at hand. Beneath his dark hood, a single blue eye gleams with terrifying intensity. Can anyone actually stop this syndicate before it is too late? 4 hooded conspirators drop to their knees in complete submission. As they vow total obedience, the master promises that their deepest desires will soon be granted. Back at the estate, Rosalind gazes down at an exquisite gift set of sparkling jewels and blue hydrangeas delivered directly to her table. Along with the lavish presents comes a shockingly candid letter from her father. He openly scoffs that Marquis Jaren could never obtain such things, before making a raw, desperate plea: "Do not leave my side." Her father never used to express his feelings like this. His sudden, genuine honesty leaves Rosalind deeply shaken as she holds the paper against her chest. It forces her to reflect on her tragic previous life with profound regret. Could her miserable situation have turned out differently if she had simply opened her heart to him back then? In that original timeline, keeping quiet had only brought her endless misery. Once she realized enduring abuse in silence was completely useless, she lashed out by physically pulling hair and slapping faces whenever she grew angry. With her cold family ignoring her, throwing tantrums was her only defense. She fought bitterly to protect her pride. That toxic behavior backfired terribly. Vicious rumors spread like wildfire through high society, leaving her completely isolated amidst a crowd of aristocrats who utterly despised her. And the moment she couldn't take it anymore and stormed out of the duchy, those dark shadows reached out to take their revenge. Plunged into absolute destitution without even a job to support herself, she turned to dark schemes to survive. She gathered classified intelligence on rival noble houses and sold the scrolls to secretive buyers. She traded dangerous secrets for heavy coin to fund her escape. Money was her only lifeline. That intelligence trade triggered a horrific wave of relentless carnage. Standing over a room of fallen nobles with a bloody sword gripped tightly in her hand, Rosalind ruthlessly manipulated everyone around her. She didn't hesitate to use people and toss them away. She became a cold-blooded monster. While on the run, kind villagers sheltered her from harm, only for her to abandon them to be slaughtered by pursuing imperial forces. Seeing her past self surrounded by flames, I honestly shudder at how far she fell. Can she truly wash away all that blood and secure a peaceful future? Back in her original timeline, Rosalind fled into the shadows alone, just to survive the bloody aftermath, willingly burying her guilt beneath a cold exterior. I wanted to live, even if it meant burying my guilt. Yet in this second life, those haunting regrets still wash over her like relentless waves. She cannot block them out. She allows herself to picture a peaceful alternate reality filled with genuine family warmth, playing board games with her brother, and resting comfortably beside her loved ones. If she had only reached out to him sooner, could she have met a far gentler end? Was a happy home truly impossible for her back then? Shaking off the sentimental daydream, Rosalind firmly grips the edge of her table and forces herself to snap out of it. Wallowing in past regrets won't protect her family today. What lies ahead is far more important than dwelling on hypothetical pasts. She needs to stay sharp for what comes next. Sorting through her stack of mail on the balcony, she sifts past standard tea party invitations until an official letter bearing the imperial wax seal catches her eye. Even after her high-profile broken engagement with the prince, the palace expects her to attend a grand banquet to demonstrate their continued alliance. Honestly, imperial politics never take a day off. Sitting down at the sunlit table with her tea, Rosalind prepares to send out polite refusals to the minor noble gatherings, but her fingers freeze the moment she picks up a silver envelope bound with a soft blue wax seal. It is a personal letter written by Arma himself. Why would he reach out to her privately now? Arma pens his letter with flawless elegance, requesting permission to visit the Bellion estate directly to deliver a gift and speak with her in private. I would be honored if you could spare some of your precious time for me. Looking at his careful words, Rosalind senses the weight behind his gentle request. His courteous tone makes her feel almost guilty for turning him down. She knows Arma likely wants to plead with her to reconsider their broken engagement. But private secret meetings will only complicate matters for both of them. Seeing him at the upcoming imperial banquet will have to be enough. She must decline. Rosalind smirks as she tears apart the private letters resting on her balcony table. In her original timeline, Mark Jaren bought up classified intel to win the bid for the Nolang mine. But in this second life, she beat him to the punch. Information belongs to whoever wields it first. Too bad, Jaren. Honestly, I love seeing her take total control. She is using her past memories to rewrite the entire political board. A maid interrupts her quiet moment to announce that her grandfather requests an immediate meeting in his private study. Rosalind sets down her teacup without a single trace of surprise. He received the news. She knows Duke Bellion must have just learned about their unexpected victory in securing the mine. Her careful schemes are already bearing fruit. Gliding down the grand red-carpeted hallway, Rosalind reflects on the political dominoes falling smoothly into place. Everything is moving exactly according to her strategic calculations, but high society is full of dangerous enemies waiting for one mistake. She vividly recalls the arrogant noble connected to that mine in her past life. Baron Robert, back then, he actually pulled a sword on her, shouting, "When I graciously offered to marry you, you should have bowed your head and accepted with gratitude." Remembering his foolish face only amuses her now. She gets to crush his families next. Revenge is sweet. She steps into her grandfather's sunlit study with effortless poise, bowing politely before taking her seat across from him. Duke Bellion sits back in his velvet chair, nursing a glass of dark red wine. Family warmth aside, business always comes first for him. He confirms their house successfully won the bid for the Nolang mine. However, early reports reveal the minerals buried deep beneath aren't common amber at all. Resting his chin on his hand, he studies her with keen interest. How could a young noblewoman possess secrets that escaped every spy in the empire? How did she know? His intense golden eyes lock onto hers as he voices his sudden, dangerous suspicion. Be an abyss? Rosalind sits completely still as her awakened power is laid bare. Can she convince him, or has her true cover finally blown? Rosalind doesn't flinch for even a second beneath her grandfather's searching gaze. Instead, a calm, unbothered smile graces her lips as she admits the truth without hesitation. Yes, Your Grace. Will owning her secret power safeguard her family, or has she just stepped into a far more dangerous game? When her grandfather gazes down at her and asks, "Granddaughter, have you perhaps awakened your abyss?" Rosalind simply offers a polite smile and replies, "Yes, Your Grace." She knows the truth about parallel worlds, and her past life is far too complicated to explain right now, so she lets him believe whatever makes the most sense. Puffing thoughtfully on his cigar, her grandfather notes how much her gaze resembles her mother's. Years ago, her mother was a remarkably brave woman who loved Surti despite his lethal poison. But after absorbing that poison while pregnant, she faced a devastating choice. She refused the antidote to protect her child, sacrificing her own life to bring Rosalind into the world. Her mother passed away right after giving birth, leaving her father completely broken. To make matters worse, newborn Rosalind was born exceedingly frail, suddenly spiking a dangerously high fever. Can you imagine the sheer agony of a father frantically calling for doctors while watching his newborn child slip away so soon after losing his beloved wife? Terrified that his toxic nature would kill his daughter just as it killed his wife, Surti became emotionally unstable. He treated Rosalind like a delicate seedling in a greenhouse, terrified of getting close to her. Unable to even comfort his child, he watched from a distance as Rosalind grew up timid, isolated, and fearful of everyone around her. Whenever anyone tried to speak with her to clear the air, she would freeze up in terror and run away. The family eventually gave up, assuming it was safer not to provoke her fragile state. Yet seeing her standing before him so self-assured today, her grandfather scratches his head in absolute wonder. Good grief, how did she change this much? Having survived execution and returned to the past, Rosalind has completely shed her former weakness. She kneels with steady red eyes and unwavering resolve. Her old fear is gone. It is as if she has hatched into a whole new person, coolly detached from the past and ready to claim her own destiny without hesitation. Watching her break free like a wild bird soaring out of a frozen nest, her grandfather senses her deep desire to leave the quiet haven he cultivated. She is ready to step out into the cold world alone, but as the head of the house, he refuses to let her slip away. When Rosalind addresses him with cool, formal politeness, he immediately cuts her off with exasperation. "Stop calling me your grace, I told you to call me grandfather." Caught off guard by his warmth, Rosalind admits she assumed he would prefer keeping his distance from her. She lowers her eyes and calmly confesses her reason. In her heart, she always believed she was nothing more than an illegitimate child in this grand estate. That painful title was her armor. Hearing her confession, her grandfather smolders with quiet anger at his son's endless hesitation. He had held back for years, waiting for Surti to face her directly. But seeing how deeply she suffered under this shadow, he vows to stop preserving the lie. He fixes his golden eyes on her and drops a revelation that shatters her entire past. "Rosalind Bellion, you are not an illegitimate child." The words echo sharply through the quiet room, leaving Rosalind completely frozen where she sits. He explains that her birth was officially recorded in the family register from day one. She is indeed the legitimate daughter of Surti Bellion and his only granddaughter. Tapping his cigar against the tray, he urges her to demand the full story from her father. Honestly, communication in this family is an absolute disaster. Sitting motionless in her chair, Rosalind feels her whole past unraveling. Has father ever actually told me I was an illegitimate child? Memories of Surti's lonely, distant silhouette rush back to her, yet not once in those memories did he ever say she didn't belong. A profound truth takes root inside her mind. The tragic distance between them wasn't rejection after all. It was a terrible misunderstanding, forged by painful circumstances and her own protective wall built to avoid being hurt again. Her grandfather softly admits he has never been good at saying tender things. He explains that when Surti went on a rampage back then, it was pure chaos because he grew up watching an emotionally distant father and never learned how to express himself properly. But the old Duke guarantees one vital truth. There hasn't been a single moment where he hated you. Puffing thoughtfully on his cigar, the Duke sighs, confessing that he was so distracted managing the garden outside that he never noticed how the roses inside were growing. Rosalind stands motionless in the soft light. The heavy wall of isolation she built around her heart is finally starting to crumble. Now knowing the truth, Rosalind decides she must act immediately to prevent further misunderstandings. She marches straight to her father's private chambers. With firm resolve, she knocks on the heavy wooden door, only to hear a harsh shout from inside, "Don't be annoying and get lost." Inside his dark laboratory, Surti clutches a test tube bubbling with poisonous smoke. Terrified of harming anyone, he yells back, asking if the visitor wants to die of poison, storms toward the entryway, furious that someone would recklessly ignore his warning. Can you blame him for panicking? He rips the door open with a fierce glare, ready to scold the intruder. "You foolish person who still doesn't know the danger of being poison." But his voice trails off into a weak whisper. Standing right before him, serene and composed, is Rosalind. The terrifying Duke freezes on the spot. "Rosalind, why are you?" He stammers, his mind completely short-circuiting. Scrambling backward in a panic, he waves his hands frantically, shouting at her to leave the dangerous area immediately. If he keeps his distance, it's only because he's terrified of hurting her. Seeing this ferocious man turn into a flustered worrywart is honestly priceless. Standing outside his door, Rosalind looks at him with cool composure, effortlessly translating his clumsy bluster into plain truth. You're saying that you're worried I, who have been frail since childhood, might get sick because of the bad air here, right, Father? Surdy flinches in absolute shock. His aggressive facade is blown away in a single second. When she softly admits she spent her whole life believing he told her to get lost because he hated her, Surt completely unravels. He stammers wildly, frantically trying to explain that it was merely a slip of the tongue. Inside, he agonizes over his terrible habit of spitting harsh words whenever panic takes over. Honestly, the poor man has zero communication skills. The terrifying memory of his lethal power haunts every second of his existence. He rarely speaks to anyone, constantly terrified that his cursed toxic aura will destroy those around him. How could he ever forgive himself if he accidentally harms his precious daughter? Painful fears consume his mind. Rosalind raises a calm eyebrow, asking if he plans to keep her standing out in the hallway forever. She then feigns a delicate cough, murmuring that the air is stuffy and making her nose hurt. Sudden panic strikes Surdy right in the chest. Is his lingering aura already making her sick? He desperately offers to bring her an antidote and urges her to head straight back upstairs to safety. But Rosalind stays right where she is, adjusting her collar with serene grace before delivering a firm refusal. No, I like it here. Surdy gapes at her in absolute horror. Is she actually standing her ground? Eager to move her away from the laboratory door, he tries suggesting the neighboring drawing room instead, but his mind instantly races through the rest of the estate. The adjacent rooms are either uncleaned chemical storages or gloomy practice rooms filled with dark ritual circles. His estate is a total disaster. Seeing him completely flounder, Rosalind casually offers to turn around and leave if he really doesn't want her around. That single thought shatters his hesitation completely. Surdy shouts out a frantic refusal, reaching toward her in a panic while begging her to wait just a moment while he tidies up his messy room. Without waiting for an official invitation, Rosalind nonchalantly steps right inside his cluttered laboratory, dryly remarking on how dirty the place is. Completely panicked by her sudden presence, Surdy frantically thrusts a bottle of antidote straight into her hands, desperately begging her to sit down and drink it right away. Scrambling around the messy room to prepare warm tea for her, Surdy nervously promises it will be ready soon. Rosalind silently watches his anxious, clumsy care. Seeing his genuine, panic-driven concern for her health, she realizes her grandfather spoke the absolute truth. He never hated her. She knows her father won't be able to explain his complex feelings properly right now. So why not request what she needs immediately? Surdy's slender hands suddenly freeze mid-air over a teacup as Rosalind coolly drops her unexpected bold question. Father, have you ever attended a banquet? Blushing furiously, the terrifying Duke gapes at his daughter in complete bewilderment. A banquet? Honestly, seeing this formidable man turn into a flustered father is my absolute favorite part. The long-standing wall of isolation between them has finally broken, leaving an undeniable warmth to take its place. Rosalind gently brings up the upcoming imperial banquet, asking her father if he has ever attended such an event before. Looking visibly flustered, he avoids her gaze and confesses he never goes to social gatherings. He hated public gatherings. Seeing his gloomy expression, she realizes how isolated his world has always been. Her mind drifts to the past, remembering how his strict shelter cost her a proper debutante ball. Yet attending this imperial ball is non-negotiable. She must secure a clean annulment for her engagement while maintaining strong political ties between the duchy and the crown. Failure is not an option. When her father admits he doesn't even own a banquet suit, Rosalind casually rests her chin in her hand and hints she will take Gyan instead. Her bait worked instantly. He loses his composure, yelling, "I would rather go myself than let you spend time with him. Can he really pull this off?" As he demands to know the date, Rosalind reaches for his hand and points out his trembling fingers. Dark energy crackles off the silver spoon he holds, revealing his magic is still dangerously volatile. Honestly, his fierce protectiveness is almost endearing, but his power poses a massive threat. He insists he can simply wear extra restrictors to keep his aura suppressed. That comes at a steep price. Rosalind gestures toward his glowing rings, warning him that soul stone artifacts forcibly crush his magical flow and cause severe agony. Why would he subject himself to more of those? He gazes at her with deep devotion, softly confessing, "It drains my strength and makes me lethargic, but all of that doesn't matter as long as it keeps you safe." How could she argue with that? Even so, she teases that his constant strain leaves him looking utterly pale. Since he refuses to step back, Rosaline decides to take control of the situation. She demands 3 strict conditions before allowing him to escort her. Holding up a finger, she lays down the first rule: he must stay completely calm during the entire banquet, regardless of what unfolds. Rosaline firmly lays down her second condition, pointing a decisive finger at her father and telling him to relocate his living quarters above ground. Staying trapped inside a dark underground laboratory would ruin anyone's mood. Left completely speechless by her sudden demand, he can only stare back in silent bewilderment. Holding up her hands, Rosaline playfully adds her third and final rule: he must dress up impeccably. Flustered by her high expectations, her father nervously touches his long black hair, confessing he will get cleaned up and cut his untamed locks short before the banquet. Yet basic grooming is not enough. When Rosaline gazes at him with a sparkling smile and admits, "I want to stand out the most," his breath catches. Her radiant expression looks exactly like her mother's smile, a warmth he missed desperately while watching her from afar. A soft blush touches his pale face as he gazes back with deep devotion. Remembering the lonely years she spent without proper family warmth, he makes a silent vow to fulfill her every request. If she smiles at him like this, he would do anything. The scene transitions to the imperial castle's grand quarterly banquet. Spanning 3 to 5 days, this lavish gathering is a major stage where noble families socialize over fine food and champagne, while secretly competing for political influence. Can her quiet father really handle an environment like this? Until now, Duke Devon Bellion attended alone. Today is different. The massive palace doors slowly creak open, letting a blinding burst of radiant light pour into the bustling hall as the herald announces the arrival of the duchy. Young Duke Serdy Bellion steps through the threshold, holding Rosaline's gloved hand as she dazzles in a midnight blue gown. I honestly did not expect her father to look this handsome when dressed up. Alongside Duke Devon Bellion, their breathtaking entry immediately captures the attention of every noble in the room. As the herald loudly announces the arrival of the duchy, malicious whispers instantly ripple through the grand ballroom. High society gossips whisper behind their fans, dredging up Rosaline's disastrous past debutante ball. They mock her as a gloomy stutterer who has no right to show her face here. Her escort looks visibly uneasy listening to the cruel chatter, but Rosaline walks forward with radiant poise. Her steady gaze never wavers. The painful past no longer defines who she is. She is a completely different person now. Dazzling in a breathtaking midnight blue dress from Pluier Boutique, her stunning entrance leaves the room in complete awe. The gossips choke on their words. Everyone frantically whispers, wondering how she secured a gown that a fortune couldn't buy. Honestly, if he doesn't want her, I do. Overhearing the endless whispering, her protective father scowls murderously at the crowd. He tightly grumbles, "The kid's face is going to wear out." His terrifying aura instantly freezes the gossips in fear. Nobody dares make eye contact. Yet despite his intimidating presence, ambitious socialites quickly gather around the powerful duchy. Eager lords and academy acquaintances crowd in, desperate to forge political ties with the long-isolated Bellion family. Seeing the mob engulfing them, Rosaline makes a swift move. She gently releases her hand from her flustered escort, telling her father, "Just stay here and I'll bring a drink for you too, father." Before he can react, she neatly vanishes into the crowd. Can you really blame her? Relaxing in a quiet hallway, Rosaline sips her champagne with a smirk. Escaping that suffocating crowd was the smartest decision she made all evening. There was zero reason to suffer through that exhausting social dance. Gazing across the room at her handsome father trapped among swooning nobles, she grins behind her glass. He truly looks remarkable all dressed up. She can't help but realize where she inherited her own striking good looks. Her peaceful moment is suddenly shattered. A shadowy figure steps out from the hallway, drawling softly. Well, look who it is." Rosaline turns toward the unexpected voice. Who just managed to catch her completely alone? Rosaline turns toward the unexpected voice, her crimson eyes narrowing as a slimy nobleman swaggers into the quiet corridor. Giles Robert greets her with a sleazy grin, loudly boasting that her breathtaking transformation was entirely thanks to his advice. He truly believes his shallow opinions still hold weight over her life. Rosaline takes a slow, graceful sip of sparkling champagne, asking with a razor-thin smile, Baron Gilbert, is your livestock business going well? When he flusteredly stammers that his family actually deals in textiles and mining, she coolly deadpans that a pig simply kept flashing before her eyes. Refusing to take the insult to heart, the arrogant noble aggressively corners her against the marble balustrade. He boldly grabs a lock of her silver hair and leans uncomfortably close, shamelessly offering to act as her practice partner for the upcoming imperial marriage. How disgusting can one person possibly get? Rosaline's lip curls into a chilling, dismissive smirk as his sickening offer lingers in the quiet air. She mutters under her breath, "A walking pig doesn't know its place and is aiming for a human. He picked the wrong target." Without backing down for even a fraction of a second, Rosaline swings her gloved arm in a swift arc. She forcefully smashes her crystal champagne glass right across his arrogant face. Honestly, I was praying she would hit him. The foolish Baron collapses onto the marble floor with a pathetic screech. Spilled alcohol coats his ruined vest as Rosaline looks down at his shuddering frame with a cold, red-eyed glare. She won't tolerate disrespect from anyone ever again. Holding the sharp, jagged glass stem between her black-gloved fingers, Rosaline flicks her wrist down. A sudden surge of dark magic erupts, driving sharp crystal spikes straight through the marble floor around him to trap the screaming noble in place. Will anyone manage to save him from her wrath? Giles recoils in sheer terror as fresh blood drips down his face from the shattered champagne glass. Panic instantly consumes him as he frantically clutches his bleeding cheek, shrieking in horror at the sharp pain. He never imagined she would actually draw blood. Furious at the sudden humiliation, he screams, "What do you think you're doing, you crazy, unhinged bitch?" Rosaline steps forward without a single trace of hesitation, dark magical energy surging around her high heel. She ruthlessly pins him to the marble floor, leaning down to lock eyes. Did he really expect her to submit? She presses her heel down mercilessly while he writhes and shrieks in pain. Rosaline knows his entire vile history. He has victimized countless helpless commoners and young noblewomen who were too terrified for their families to speak out. Honestly, watching her put him in his place is so satisfying. He made a fatal mistake. Looking down at his trembling frame with a chilling, radiant smile, Rosaline coolly declares, "I'm just a crazy, unhinged bitch, exactly like you said." She has fully reclaimed her power, stepping into her dangerous second life with absolute confidence and authority. No one in this empire will ever break her again. Rosalind pins the harassing noble under her heel, without a shred of hesitation. She knows he has been tormenting helpless women around the fief who were too frightened to speak out. She smiles down at him with cold satisfaction, proudly owning the insult he threw at her. "I'm simply a crazy rogue. She won't back down. There are women who live far outside his stupid, narrow world." Wreathing under her shoe, the man loses his temper completely. He groans in pain before suddenly lunging upward, catching Rosalind off balance as her foot slips. He hurls vicious insults and snaps back at her in rage. "This stupid wench!" She tilts back as he aggressively closes the distance. Is he really foolish enough to attack her here? Before he can touch her, a ringed hand grabs his collar from behind. Her grandfather hauls the coward off his feet with sudden, crushing force. "What do you think you are doing to my precious granddaughter right now?" Nobody threatens his family. At the same moment, her father catches Rosalind from behind to steady her. He gently touches her shoulders, but his eyes instantly drop to her leg. A dark red bruise sits swollen against her ankle. Seeing her injured shatters his composure. His red eyes blaze with lethal fury. Taking the offender right out of the grandfather's grip, her father grabs the scoundrel by the neck of his shirt. He demands to know what the man thought he was doing. He is out for blood. The terrified noble sputters shameless lies, claiming Rosaline threw herself at him first. That outrageous excuse only makes things worse. Her father locks an iron grip around his throat, choking him while the fool desperately begs for help. Honestly, he had it coming. Robert's desperate screams echo through the ballroom as he pleads for his father to save him. But her grandfather, Devon Bellion, steps forward like a ferocious beast. Nobody dares to step in. Hearing that name makes Robert's father break into a cold sweat. Devon Bellion might be getting old, but he is still a feared legend. He is a ruthless butcher who pacified the underworld on his own. Standing against him is a total death sentence. Terrified that the poison aura will destroy him too, the cowardly father makes a disgraceful choice. Will he really abandon his own child? He turns tail and flees into the crowd, leaving his son to face doom alone. Seeing his own father desert him, leaves the scoundrel frozen in betrayal. Rosalind's father locks a lethal grip around his neck as purple poison burns through the air. "I will kill you." He is ready to end him right here. Before he snaps the man's neck, Rosalind gently places her hand on her father's arm. Her soothing voice pierces through his bloodlust. "That is more than enough, so please stop." Reminding him that his ability is spiraling out of control, her touch anchors his mind. Slumping to the floor, the noble grovels in pain while the crowd sneers at his disgrace. Whispers of contempt fill the room, destroying his pride. If he hates being humiliated, I guess he shouldn't harass innocent women. Just as the chaotic scene settles, a hand reaches down toward sharp pieces of broken glass glistening on the carpet. Is another danger lurking right beneath their feet? Her grandfather warns her not to waste an ounce of pity on such a creature. Kneeling on the floor, Robert grovels while nursing a bitter grudge. His eyes burn with vicious malice as he seethes over his destroyed reputation. How dare she look down on him? He wants revenge. If he cannot have her, he will ruin her face so she can never become the Lady of Bellion. Madness consumes him completely. Screaming in pure fury, he lunges forward with a jagged shard of glass aiming straight for her eyes. Rosalind and her family freeze as the violent scoundrel rushes forward. Before her father can pull her out of harm's way, a dark shadow flashes past. Someone hurls himself forward, placing his own body directly between Rosalind and the flying blade. Wire-rimmed glasses clatter onto the floor as the defender crashes into the attacker. Whispers ripple through the hall in shock. Standing unsteadily in his white uniform, the third Prince Arma catches his breath. He took the strike for her. Realizing he just attacked royalty, Robert trembles and absolutely mean to do this. Fresh blood drips onto the carpet from a sharp glass shard. The prince is bleeding. Rosalind gazes down at the blood-stained glass lying near her feet. Her heart drops as terrible dread settles in. Did Arma really get hurt protecting her again? Watching him bleed drags her straight back into dark memories of her past life. She remembers a cold night in the woods surrounded by hooded assassins. His desperately echoes in her mind. "Rosalind, go quickly." He threw his life on the line for her back then, too. The vision of his back in her former life lingers in her mind. He was always reckless, placing himself in harm's way without a second thought. Snapping her back to the present, Prince Arma gazes down at her with gentle concern, softly calling out, "Lady Rosalind?" Rosalind gasps, her eyes wide with shock as she frantically checks if he was stabbed by the sharp glass. Prince Arma sheepishly reassures her that he was only struck by a stray fist when the scoundrel fell over. He took the blow instead. Her father grabs the trembling culprit by the throat once more, furious that the fool dared to pick up glass shards. With her grandfather and Prince Arma watching over her with intense concern, Rosalind turns away, trying to hide her pale face while insisting she is fine. For a terrifying moment, her breath completely stopped. The trauma of watching him bleed in her past life comes rushing back to haunt her. Staring up at him with a heavy heart, she softly murmurs, "So, you truly do not need to block my front." Her grandfather warmly vows to step in front of her 1,000 times over. Prince Arma blushes deeply, placing a hand over his heart to promise he will protect her no matter what. Honestly, seeing his devotion makes my heart melt. Can she really keep her distance from someone who cares this much? Seeing him unchanged breaks something fragile deep inside her. She had locked her heart away after dying alone, convincing herself that this second life was merely a cold, meaningless extension where no one could hurt her again. Emotional distance felt safe. Her grandfather's stern expression instantly turns to panic as he asks, "Are you crossed her lashes?" As the overwhelming warmth of their concern pierces her heart far more painfully than any past loneliness ever did. Prince Arma stammers out in worry, caught off guard by her tears. "Are you all right?" He never expected her distant demeanor to break so suddenly. Her legs give out completely. Overwhelmed by this sudden wall of protection, Rosalind collapses backwards. Panic shatters the banquet room as her father screams her name in absolute horror. Darkness pulls her under like drowning in deep water. She swore to herself that she would never become this weak again, but opening her heart feels far scarier than dying. Will she allow them in this time? Morning light streams softly into the opulent room as Rosaline slowly opens her eyes. She finds herself resting comfortably inside the lavish imperial palace. How did she end up here? Her head aches terribly from yesterday's emotional breakdown. Surrounded by white roses, she tries to make sense of her surroundings. Her last vivid memory was weeping over General Yonhuai. A heavy sigh escapes her lips as she massages her throbbing temples. Collapsing from a sudden fever certainly wasn't part of her plan. Honestly, I can't blame her after everything she endured. Her body simply reached its breaking point. She adjusts her silk dress and carefully wraps a heavy shawl around her shoulders. Back in her past life, she completely forgot how fragile her constitution used to be at this age. Pain had become her normal state. It is a relief that fresh clothes were left outside for her. Since she remains trapped in the palace as the prince's fiancée, she decides to explore the grand estate. Gathering critical intelligence is her top priority right now. Stepping down the marble hallway, she pushes open the massive doors to the Imperial Library to search for valuable information. Meanwhile, inside the Emperor's private office, a tense negotiation unfolds over fine wine. The Emperor casually tilts his glass back, listening intently to his youngest son's unexpected request. "So, you're asking me to release Giles Robert?" His relaxed demeanor hides a sharp, questioning gaze. The ruler narrows his eyes with deep suspicion. Arma had just escalated a minor dispute between nobles into a major royal incident. Why turn around now and ask for forgiveness? What game is he playing? The Emperor demands to know what calculations his youngest son is secretly making. Arma remains entirely unbothered by the heavy aura filling the room. Light reflects off his round spectacles as he quietly absorbs his father's harsh interrogation. He isn't intimidated at all. Does he already know how to handle the Emperor? A calm, calculated look rests on his face. Sitting upright with tightly clasped hands, Arma counters his father without a shred of hesitation. "You were the one who made the calculation, Your Majesty." He boldly turns the blame right back onto the crown. Is he pushing his luck too far? The Emperor gazes at his son in quiet contemplation, seeing a hauntingly familiar reflection. Arma looks just like his biological mother, Cecilia, the commoner woman he loved deeply during his incognito travels. Out of protection, he left her behind, without any royal title or power. Looking at his youngest son, the Emperor reflects on the past, recalling how he faked Cecilia's death to hide her away in secret, selfishly keeping her safe to receive his love alone. In the shadow of that secret, Arma grew up treated as an illegitimate prince, turning cynical and abandoning all interest in absolute power. Yet the Emperor secretly laments his son's withdrawal, knowing Arma is the only child with the true makings of a ruler. Why step forward now? Arma calmly redirects his father's suspicion to the matter at hand, pointing to the mountain of appeals stamped with the Robert family crest. Baron Robert has already groveled before the throne, forfeiting valuable businesses and assets to buy his son's life. Having already exacted maximum tribute and an apology, Arma pushes his glasses up his nose, insisting there is no reason to execute his brother's friend. Yet beneath his unbothered facade, Arma grits his teeth and tightly clenches his scarred fist in hidden rage. He remembers Rosaline's heart-wrenching tears over the attack, refusing to let the incident go unpunished. Still, he plays the politician, framing Giles's release as a ruthless calculation rather than mercy. To call such a grand scheme a mere mistake insults his intellect. He won't forget. Lined with new wealth, the Emperor finally agrees to release Giles, taunting Baron Robert for raising such a pitiful fool of an heir. Arma smirks and throws the jab right back, asking if his father has really done any better with his own children. Tilting his wine glass, the Emperor locks eyes with Arma, purring, "I have quite an excellent piece right in front of me." Is he praising him or teasing him? Honestly, watching these two clash gives me chills. Arma glares back through his round glasses, his eyes gleaming with dangerous intensity, as silent malice crackles between father and son. Neither backs down. Their tense standoff is shattered when a servant anxiously opens the doors with urgent news. The young lady of the Bellion family has disappeared. The second the words leave the servant's mouth, Arma's calculated composure completely collapses. He jolts upright, his heart pounding in terror as he forgets all imperial etiquette in front of his father. She is gone. Hearing that the Bellion duchy has already launched a massive search, Arma completely abandons his royal composure. He turns to leave without even requesting formal dismissal from his father. The Emperor calmly rests his hand on the armrest, watching his usually cynical son crumble into a nervous wreck over a noblewoman. A sly, amused smirk spreads across the Emperor's face, becomes clear. Everything finally makes sense. Suddenly, all of Arma's recent reckless political moves line up. Could his cold son actually be driven by genuine affection? Arma? Could it be, did you do all this because your feelings for the Bellion young lady are sincere? Meanwhile, deep inside the quiet imperial library, Rosaline remains completely oblivious to the chaos sweeping through the palace grounds. She carefully browses through row after row of ancient volumes. While her family gathers political intelligence easily, finding detailed records on Kaluta has proven nearly impossible. She truly hoped for answers here. Holding a heavy blue tome titled The Land of Barbarians, Kaluta, she lets out a quiet sigh. The records are surprisingly sparse. Is this world really so different from the one she died in? Realizing she skipped lunch, Rosaline decides to call it a day. But as she turns around, a dark hand unexpectedly reaches for her shoulder. Danger! Driven by battle reflexes honed in her past life, she spins around instantly and aggressively slams her hand against the intruder's wrist to disarm him. It's me, Lady Rosaline. Flushed bright red, Arma stammers in sheer panic, shielding his face with a book. He breathlessly apologizes for startling her. He quickly explains that her sudden disappearance sent both the imperial court and her family into an absolute frenzy. Everyone is out looking for her. Placing a trembling hand over his heart, Arma lowers his gaze and softly confesses, "Of course, I was also searching for you." Honestly, seeing him so openly relieved to find her safe just melts my heart. Rosaline stares back at him, completely caught off guard by his sudden vulnerability. Gazing closely at his face, Rosaline notices a fresh white bandage taped across his cheek. Did he get hurt again? A gentle smile touches her lips as she chuckles softly, amused by his constant injuries. Arma sheepishly rubs his cheek, laughing nervously to cover his embarrassment. He reveals that her father and brother completely lost their minds, suspecting a high-stakes kidnapping. They practically tore the entire imperial palace apart searching for her. Hearing how terribly anxious her family has become over her disappearance, Rosaline smiles warmly to herself. Back in her past life, her father always felt terrifying, unapproachable, and cold. Picturing him now dramatically pacing Rezu and weeping over her safety feels surprisingly endearing to her. Did her broken family really soften this much? Honestly, watching her smile like this, after everything she endured, brings me so much joy. Rosaline apologizes for losing track of time inside the library and gathers her silk dress to return before causing any further trouble. But before she can step away, Arma hesitates and gently reaches out to stop her. Flushing bright red, he nervously gathers every ounce of his courage. Looking up into her eyes, he softly asks, "By any chance, would it be all right if I went with you?" Her answer is swift and utterly unyielding. Rosaline looks straight ahead and shuts him down without a single moment of hesitation. "There's no need for you to come." A heavy, painful silence falls between them. Arma stammers in total confusion, asking if he somehow caused a problem, but Rosaline remains unbothered and distant. Reverting back to strict royal etiquette, she curtly bids farewell to Your Highness, the third prince, and walks away, leaving him standing alone in the grand hallway. Arma stands rooted to the spot in complete shock. Huh? Did she really just turn her back on him like that? Is it really over just like this? A heavy shadow of rejection crashes down on him. Even if she intended to refuse his request, he fully expected her to give an explanation and let him persuade her. Instead, her cold distance cuts deeper than any insult from the royal court. Arma's heart aches as quiet memories of their peaceful moments together flash through his mind. Rosaline was the single person in the entire empire who never ignored him or treated him recklessly. She was his only comfort, and now, the woman he secretly cares for has drawn a sudden line between them, leaving their fragile connection shattered in the quiet library. Geron stands completely bewildered as the sudden silence settles heavily around him. Did she really just turn her back and leave without saying a single word? He assumed even a harsh rejection would come with a proper explanation. For it to just end like this, it stings far more than he cares to admit. To him, Rosaline was completely different from everyone else in the noble court. While others treated him with cold disdain, she was the single person who never looked down on his position. She offered him respect when no one else would. That quiet kindness anchored his lonely world. As a bastard prince without backing, he and his mother were practically erased from existence due to the emperor's fleeting romantic whim. His only revenge was playing the fool, intentionally hiding his intellect so he could escape the emperor's scheme to make him successor. How else could he survive? In a life where nothing truly belonged to him, Rosaline Bellion became the very first person who mattered to his heart. He knew the rumors calling her an outcast, an ugly duckling trapped in a position just like his own. He guarded his feelings behind a mask, yet she drew him in. He wanted to offer her the gentle warmth he had never been given. When she accepted it without hesitation, taking him exactly as he was. Seeing her blush softly, as their fingers touched, proved that she genuinely trusted him. Honest warmth shared between two lonely souls is rare. Because of that, he poured immense care into their playhouse relationship, wanting to protect the sweet girl who would be left behind once he departed. It felt like a simple kindness he could easily afford to give. Honestly, I think he fell for her way back then without even realizing it. Suddenly, a panicked servant bursts into interrupt his quiet afternoon with terrifying news. Lady Rosalind is on the mansion's rooftop. Geron turns around sharply, his teacup trembling in his hand as shock takes over. Is she really about to do something reckless? Geron stands completely stunned as the servant's frantic warning echoes around him. What? In all those gentle daily moments, he never once saw the shadow of death hanging over her. Why do this now? Was he really the only one who cared about their playhouse world? The quiet girl who once wept under falling rain has vanished. Ever since returning from the brink of death, Rosalind feels like a completely different person. She seems bold, sharp, and totally unreadable. Has she closed her heart to him for good? He clenches his fist tightly. Someone brave enough to face death could easily find the courage to pursue her real desires. She specifically selected his brother for the Kaluta expedition. Was all of this calculated from the start? Geron foolishly assumed her radical moves were for his sake, but seeing how fearlessly she confronted his brother, a painful misunderstanding takes root. Could his confident brother be her ideal match? Did she reach out to him because he is the one she wanted? What if she threw away their engagement for the man she actually longs for? The mental image of them traveling together destroys his calm, it stings deep. Honestly, jealousy looks downright terrifying on him. Dark terror takes hold of him. Shock instantly turns into pure urgency. Refusing to let her slip away, Geron tears down the hallway, shouting, "My lady!" He must reach that rooftop before she makes a mistake he can never undo. Geron shouts her name, completely breathless as he finally catches up to her in the grand mansion corridor. Rosalind halts her steps and turns back, looking thoroughly caught off guard by his sudden, intense arrival. Why is he chasing after her with such frantic urgency? Standing right in front of her, Geron blurted out the agonizing question eating away at his heart. He directly asked if she selected his brother for the upcoming expedition because he fit her ideal type. Rosalind stared back at him, completely confused by his unexpected words. Rosalind suddenly remembered throwing out a random ideal type in a past conversation just to dodge his questions. Entirely unaware of how deeply he misconstrued her words, she simply nodded and answered, yes. That brief answer completely shattered his remaining composure. Hearing her confirm, it crushed him inside. Spending quiet time talking with her was the single moment he could truly breathe in his miserable life. He refused to hand her over to his brother. Honestly, watching him spiral like this breaks my heart. Completely clueless about his hidden panic, Rosalind clutched her book tightly to her chest and calmly asked, "Is that all you wanted to ask?" As she turned her back to leave him behind, raw panic seized him. He couldn't let her walk away. Desperate to stop her from leaving his world, Geron shouted, "Don't go, Rosalind! I will become that ideal type!" He passionately vowed to change into a strong, fierce man so he could take his brother's place on the Kaluta delegation. Can you believe his absolute devotion? Overwhelmed by his wild declaration, Rosalind figured having extra leverage for her plans wouldn't hurt. She softly replied, "Then, go ahead." A bright, joyful smile lit up Geron's blushing face as relief washed over him. He successfully won his place at her side. Seeing his genuine smile finally opens her eyes to the truth behind his actions. She softly presses her hand over her chest as understanding dawns on her. Geron isn't trying to control her out of malice, but because he genuinely cares for the weak girl she used to be. She realizes that pushing him away will only make him more desperate. He stayed by her side through everything, constantly worrying about her fragile spirit. Can you really blame him for wanting to protect her now? To let him leave with a peaceful mind, she must show him she can handle herself without his protection. Proving her strength during the diplomatic mission is the best path forward. Holding her book tightly, she softly promises, "I shall see you on the day of our departure." A few days later, back at the estate, her father desperately clutches his hands in her bedroom. Tears fill his eyes as he begs her to reconsider. He simply cannot bear the thought of his precious daughter leaving for a distant and dangerous land. Rosalind calmly reminds him that the Emperor's official decree at the bank cannot be undone. There is no backing out now. Standing tall with absolute composure, she firmly states, "I must go to Kaluta as a diplomat." This is already the 11th time he has asked the exact same question. He worries intensely about her frail body facing such a treacherous trip. Seeing his flustered panic, Rosalind sighs softly, realizing her sudden disappearance at the palace only fueled his endless anxiety. Driven by deep concern, her father actually relocated his bedroom from the basement straight to the room right next to hers. He constantly knocks on her door at all hours, offering fresh tea. Honestly, seeing a former villain turn into a clingy dad is hilarious. Exhausted by the endless door-knocking, Rosalind throws out a sharp, sarcastic comment. She asks why he doesn't just do his work inside her room instead. His face brightens with overwhelming excitement. To her utter shock, he actually moves his entire desk right into her quarters. Her devoted father finally pauses his mountain of paperwork and steps toward her, presenting a carefully wrapped dagger with gentle affection. "At least take this with you," he insists softly. Rosalind gazes down at the shimmering, polished steel in complete disbelief. A lethal weapon? She instantly recognizes the exquisite blade. In her former life, Lady Carmel boastfully paraded this exact weapon everywhere, bragging to everyone that her father gave it to her. Stunned by the sudden realization, Rosalind softly asks, "You made this yourself, father?" He glances away with an earnest, timid smile. He proudly explains how he forged the rare mineral using his own dark abyss energy. The enchanted steel allows anyone to temporarily wield its stored magic without taking any harm. He crafted it purely for her protection. Holding the radiant blade, the true value of his gift washes over her heart. This is an abyss weapon, the lost core business of her house that vanished in her former timeline. Watching this reformed father shower her with devotion brings a tear to my eye. Why hand over such a legendary treasure right now? As the newly revealed abyss weapon rests before them, dark magical energy swirls around the sleek silver blade. In her past life, the ducal house suffered an irreversible blow after Carmel lured their core engineers away. Was this very blade the root of that tragic downfall? She unsheaths the dagger and tests its balance with a graceful sweep of her hand. Normal daggers are usually designed for men, so they never quite fit my hand. Yet this custom blade feels remarkably light and comfortable, a perfect fit. Hearing her sincere compliment, Carmel brightens with relief before sheepishly asking when she thinks he started crafting it. When he admits he began over 3 years ago, her eyes widen in quiet shock. That long ago? Could his quiet dedication truly stretch back that far? Carmel stammers frantic excuses, desperately assuring her that he isn't foolish or incompetent. The raw mineral was simply dense and temperamental, requiring years of exhausting work to refine properly. Honestly, his flustered dedication is almost sweet. He never once stopped working for her sake. Realizing he began forging this dagger long before they even met in this timeline, a staggering realization takes hold. Could the blade from her previous life have been meant for her too? She grips the hilt tightly, refusing to set herself up for empty disappointment. Carmel clears his throat nervously, trying to suppress how wildly his heart is pounding in his chest. Keeping his true feelings bottled up in the past only drove them apart and caused deep wounds. He knows he cannot let fear keep him silent any longer. Silence previously brought nothing but bitter wounds and bone-deep regret for both of them. Carmel learned the hard way that without speaking up clearly, nothing between them will ever change. They both suffered through that painful lesson. Will courage finally break the cycle? Taking a firm, decisive step forward, Carmel closes the remaining distance standing between them. No more running away from the truth. Gazing directly into her eyes with an earnest, glowing expression, he finally voices the deep affection he kept hidden for years. "I forged this blade specifically to give to you." All his secret devotion is finally laid bare right before her eyes. Rosalind stammers in quiet surprise as Carmel lays his long-hidden devotion completely bare before her. He stammers that from the moment he first uncovered the rare ore, years before even drafting a blueprint, he knew this weapon belonged to her. Clearing his throat nervously while trying to stay calm, his eyes plead for her acceptance. Will she accept his heartfelt gift? Tracing the smooth silver sheath, her fingertips brush against a delicate detail carved near the handle. Engraved cleanly into the metal is Rose, her intimate pet name. Overwhelmed by the revelation, she cradles the custom weapon close against her chest. Could this dagger have been forged for her in her previous life as well? The realization touches her deeply. A tender, radiant smile softens her face as she gazes up at him. "Thank you, Father." Hearing her sincere gratitude, Carmel blushes furiously while his eyes sparkle with pure joy. Honestly, seeing him this flustered is just precious. After years of quiet dedication and labor, his hard work has finally paid off. Trying to regain his composure, Carmel quickly shifts the topic to new business matters. He eagerly pitches plans to expand their workshop by recruiting elite craftsmen, needing fast returns after pouring heavy family funds into research. But Rosaline interrupts him without hesitation. She firmly urges him to pause hiring those artisans immediately, leaving him completely baffled. Carmel assures her those artisans are completely trustworthy. But cold dread grips her heart. She knows the grim truth. In her past timeline, those exact craftsmen were easily corrupted by Magroxa, sparking the tragic downfall of her entire house. She refuses to let history repeat itself. Can she prevent the betrayal before it even begins? She advises him to consult her grandfather while waiting on profits from their newly acquired mine. Carmel blinks in confusion, believing the Nolang mine has no real export value. Yet Rosaline gazes back with absolute conviction. Father, please trust me and just wait a little longer. With her secret knowledge of the future, victory is already assured. Overjoyed that Rosaline is finally asking him for a favor, Carmel beams with proud excitement. He clears his throat nervously and eagerly promises, "This father of yours will do his absolute best to put the project on hold." Rosaline responds with a radiant smile, deeply thankful that he trusts her judgment without demanding any explanations. Instead of hiring local artisans who could easily be corrupted by rival forces like Magroxa, she already envisions a far safer strategy. She intends to recruit master blacksmiths directly during her upcoming diplomatic trip to Kaluta. Smart move. 3 days before departing for Kaluta, a private carriage carries Rosaline through the dark night on a secret errand. Dressed in an ornate crimson gown and wearing an elaborate red cat mask, all her preparations are fully complete on the surface. Yet her true game plan goes far deeper. Can she pull off this covert operation without raising any suspicion? While imperial citizens often look down on Kaluta as a backward nation, Rosaline remembers the grim truth from her past life. Kaluta proved to be a formidable opponent that went so far as to wage full-scale war against the Empire. To steer diplomatic negotiations in her house's favor, holding strong cards is crucial. Fortunately, her memories from the past reveal a remarkably powerful card hidden right in this city. A masked attendant holding a single candle politely greets guests at the gates of a secretive underground venue, intoning, "Welcome to our auction house." Stepping past the entrance in her ornate disguise, Rosaline prepares to enter the shadowy world of high-stakes bidding. I have to admit, her disguised look is absolute perfection. The usher formally addresses her as Lady Red Cat, while offering his gloved hand to escort her down the quiet corridor. She has finally arrived right in the heart of the infamous underground market known as the Ant Nest. Underneath her crimson mask, Rosaline remains entirely calm and laser-focused. Failure is not an option. The attendant carefully verifies her ticket by singeing it over a candle flame before granting her clearance to proceed. Heavy wooden doors slowly creak open, revealing strict rules for everyone attending. Weapons are strictly prohibited, and guests may be accompanied by only a single bodyguard. What secret asset is she hunting inside? Behind a dilapidated townhouse requiring strict security clearance, gloved hands turn a heavy iron winch. The grinding mechanism echoes loudly through the stone passage as the secret entryway unbolts before them. Although the surface building appears completely abandoned from the outside, a concealed trapdoor in the stone floor creaks open to reveal a dark staircase plunging deep into the earth. Guided only by a candle flame, Rosaline and her bodyguard step into the shadows. No turning back now. Welcome to the Ant Nest, an infamous underground black market operating far beneath the capital. In this lawless den, corrupt brokers barter everything from priceless gems and exotic beasts to human lives without a single shred of remorse. Talk about a dangerous place to do business. Behind the scenes, the shadowy syndicate Magroxa secretly controls this venue to finance their regional operations. Yet, Rosaline isn't here to hunt their hidden master tonight. As they descend the final landing, the usher politely asks what specific commodity she hopes to acquire. Underneath her ornate red cat mask, Rosaline's gaze sharpens with cold, unwavering purpose. She delivers her answer in a smooth, quiet whisper. Slaves. Delighted by her direct request, the usher grins slyly beneath his porcelain mask, eager to showcase their newest arrivals. Enormous, reinforced vault doors slowly part, exposing a massive subterranean cavern filled with iron cages. Innocent captives huddle together in heavy chains while wealthy nobles inspect them like common livestock. Even after enduring death in her past life, witnessing such raw cruelty makes her stomach churn. Nauseating. The usher asks if she prefers a specific age group or gender for her purchase. Rosaline responds without hesitation. A male youth in his teens would be ideal, But as he guides her down the row of holding cells, a sudden glimmer catches her attention. She stops dead in her tracks. Has she already spotted her target? Stopping the usher with a calm command, Rosaline points directly toward a dim holding cell. A silver-haired boy sits quietly in heavy iron chains. She found him at last. This young captive is her sole reason for braving the ant nest. The boy slowly lifts his head, revealing sharp green eyes glowing beneath his silver fringe. Her ultimate trump card for the upcoming diplomatic war is finally within reach, the secret second prince of Kaluta. Rosaline halts inside the dark subterranean auction house and points straight toward a locked cage. A bruised youth sits bound in heavy iron chains. He was the sole reason she stepped into this dangerous underworld. Was her target really waiting right here? A closer look reveals striking emerald eyes, silver hair, and a distinct red tattoo. These rare traits mark his royal lineage. He is actually the second prince of Kaluta. Bound in heavy iron shackles, he gazes up in total silence. The masked merchant bows politely and praises her keen judgment. He whispers slyly that capturing a wild barbarian required extraordinary effort and expense. He is clearly laying the groundwork to inflate his asking price. Sounds like a classic sales pitch, right? Without wasting any time, Rosaline asks for his price directly. The dealer grins beneath his mask and names an astronomical figure, 698.5 million rulongs. That is an outrageously huge price tag. Rosaline knows the average slave usually costs around 100 to 200 million. Even for royal blood, this price is absurdly inflated. She refuses to be scammed. Standing tall, she prepares to take complete control of the negotiation. She firmly counters with 400 million. When the salesman attempts to argue, she raises a gloved hand and commands him to stop. Honestly, I love a woman who knows how to haggle. Dangerous magic begins gathering around her fingertips. Lifting her veil, Rosaline exposes her glowing crimson eyes and releases an overwhelming wave of magical pressure. She looks him dead in the eye and warns, "You better be prepared." He pushed his luck way too far. Sweating nervously under her intense magical aura, the auction dealer stammers and hastily lowers his asking price to 500 million. But before Rosaline can close the deal, heavy footsteps echo across the marble floor. An arrogant intruder wearing a gray wolf mask interrupts to match her bid. Rosaline takes one look at his sharp green eyes and heavy layered robes, instantly recognizing him as a member of the fierce Kaluta tribe. Running into them here is an unwelcome complication she hoped to avoid before leaving. Still, she refuses to yield the captive prince she claimed first. When she confronts the intruder for rudely crashing her private negotiation, the man smugly flips a gold coin and boasts he can pay a much higher price. Rosaline is not intimidated. She scoffs right back. "Hey, you reek of being a country bumpkin. Is this your first time in the VIP room?" Snapping her gloved fingers, she firmly reminds him that auction custom dictates yielding to the person who made the first offer. Unbothered by her warning, the stranger provocatively asks, "Is it because of your lineage? Does he really think throwing personal insults will make her back down?" Imperial citizens despise the Kalutas as savage barbarians due to decades of brutal border conflicts. But Rosaline refuses to harbor mindless prejudice. In her previous life, she owed a deep debt of gratitude to a Kaluta warrior named Sanzar, making this senseless confrontation feel awfully bitter. Shifting her focus, Rosaline turns to the bewildered auction guide and casually asks what an adult Kaluta slave fetches on the market. The guide stammers that adults are nearly impossible to capture or tame, making their starting bid at least 1 billion rulongs. Talk about a staggering price tag. A sly smile spreads beneath Rosaline's red veil as a brilliant scheme clicks into place. If an adult Kaluta is worth an astounding 1 billion rulongs, then the arrogant wolf-masked man standing right in front of her is a golden prize just waiting to be claimed. Rosaline looks the intruder up and down, calmly declaring her prize is standing right in front of her. Offended by her bold assertion, the stranger growls back in disgust. He angrily asks what a fragile girl who wouldn't last a single punch is blabbering about. Gripping his walking cane tightly, he snarls, "Do I need to show you a bitter taste to make you shut your mouth?" Unbothered by his aggressive threats, Rosaline glides toward the iron cage. She points out that the child's vivid green eyes match his own perfectly. Turning back to him, her glowing crimson gaze narrows behind her silk veil. "If you have nothing to hide, why don't you take off your gloves? We can easily verify his true identity just by checking his skin color." Taking her hint, the auction dealer steps forward and politely asks the visitor to remove his gloves. But before he can take another step, a masked guard steps in front of the stranger and draws a heavy sword. "Do not come any closer." Is he really that terrified of being exposed? Before blades clash, a low, authoritative voice echoes from the ceiling above. Out of thin air, an imposing figure wearing an ornate red antler mask drops silently behind the bodyguard. The guard recoils in shock. There was no sound, no presence at all. How long had this dangerous master been watching them from the shadows? The high-ranking official speaks smoothly, effortlessly taking control of the entire room. He points out that making a commotion only makes the stranger look far more suspicious. Reaching out an open hand, he demands, "Would you take off your gloves and show us?" He promises generous compensation if a mistake was made, leaving no excuse to decline. Rosaline watches intently, identifying the newcomer as a powerful authority in this underground network. Sweat trickles down the intruder's tense face as his proud facade completely crumbles. Cornered from every side, he has nowhere left to retreat. Honestly, watching arrogant bullies get trapped in their own game is my favorite spectacle. What will he do now? Looking closely at the stranger, Rosaline recognizes his true identity from her past life. He is the Grand Duke of Kaluta, driven by bitter jealousy toward his brother who inherited the throne. This ruthless man secretly infiltrated the empire to eliminate his own nephew, the second prince. He framed the empire for the assassination, igniting a catastrophic war between the two nations. In the bloody conflict that followed, both the King of Kaluta and the Emperor suffered mortal wounds and died shortly after. War destroyed everything they built. In this second life, Rosaline has precious bonds to protect. She refuses to stand by while war destroys everything she holds dear. Rescuing the young prince is her best leverage to secure peace. "I don't want to see a war break out," she vows. Can she really alter the fate of two empires? Back in the present, the intruder's silent hesitation speaks volumes to everyone in the room. Reaching out a dark-gloved hand, the antler-masked official declares, "You must be of the same tribe as the merchandise over there." Ominous shadow magic surges from his fingertips, heavy and suffocating. Cornered on all sides, the intruder's loyal bodyguard draws his sword and shouts, "My lord, I will open a path." He lunges forward to carve an escape route, but the antler-masked master glides across the marble floor with frightening speed to cut them off. A chilling smirk spreads beneath the official's red mask. Violent black shadowy tendrils burst from the ground, grabbing the airborne knight and slamming him to a halt. Honestly, watching arrogant villains get instantly trapped is my absolute favorite sight. The suffocating dark magic tears off the guard's mask and engulfs the fleeing Grand Duke in a swirling black vortex. Dragged down into the floor, the intruder groans in helpless shock as the trap seals shut tight. Their dangerous plot failed completely. The suffocating dark magic swallows both intruders whole, pulling them down into the swirling shadow floor. Stripped of his proud mask and grand facade, the Grand Duke thrashes against his shadowy bonds in pure fury, roaring, "How dare you? Do you know who I am?" But no amount of screaming can break his dark imprisonment. Watching the defeated intruder, the antler-masked master gently adjusts his red mask with "He'll be fun to tame." Tightening his dark-gloved fist, he silences the thrashing captive, calmly noting he is still far too loud. How terrifyingly fast can one master control the entire hall? Gliding over toward Rosaline, the official warmly praises her sharp eyes for delivering two high-value captives directly into his hands. Standing face-to-face with her, he promises a generous reward, urging, "Please tell me what you want." Would anyone really turn down a blank check from such a dangerous shadow master? Rosaline's crimson eyes sparkle behind her silk veil as a brilliant scheme falls into place. Gaining the favor of an insanely powerful abyss magic user is a massive trump card she never expected to land today. A sly smirk curves her lips. Then, shall I make a slightly unreasonable proposal? Heavy footsteps echo through the quiet hall as the masked dealer steps forward to converse with Rosaline. He acknowledges her invaluable help in securing two extraordinarily precious pieces of merchandise and offers her whatever reward she desires. Is it really that simple? He eagerly invites her to state her wish without holding back. Refusing a favor from a formidable abyss user would be utterly foolish. Rosaline smiles shrewdly beneath her ornate mask and makes an exceptionally bold proposal. She points her gloved finger directly at the silver-haired child trapped inside a cramped metal cage, demanding him along with the others. "Give them to me for 500 million. The dealer stammers in complete shock at her outrageous request. Does he actually think she is joking with him? Rosaline does not flinch for a second, rustling through her cloak to retrieve a formal paper. She makes it clear she is perfectly serious, offering to pay the full sum right here and now. His sharp blue eyes narrow behind his mask as he recognizes the crest of the Wilbert house on the draft. Roseline casually adds another 100 million as a capture fee, bringing the check to 1 billion. Money talks. Delighted by her lavish spending, he asks if she wants to spend even more. He bows dramatically, offering to escort her personally now that she is spending so lavishly. But as he reaches for the check, Roseline smoothly pulls it away. She turns down his offer, declaring that his swaggering behavior is not her type. Talk about shutting someone down on the spot. She firmly tells him to take his money and withdraw. Not your type, he mutters, his ego visibly shaken by her words. He never expected a noble lady to reject his company so bluntly. Her sudden coldness leaves him completely speechless. So what kind of man actually catches her eye? Rather than someone arrogant, Roseline prefers a partner who is genuinely kind and respectful. She fondly pictures a gentle face with a warm, radiant smile. Someone like Arma. Her heart clearly knows who it wants. A heavy silence lingers between them as the dealer considers her unyielding stance. Realizing the clever noblewoman will not back down, he quickly adjusts his strategy. He asks whether she would be willing to take all 3 captives off his hands for 1.5 billion as she previously mentioned. Roseline pushes her advantage even further without flinching. She suggests that at such an extravagant price tag, he should toss in the rose diamond jewelry set scheduled for auction. The dealer holds his head in complete disbelief. That luxury set starts at 500 million at the very least. I never imagined the Empire's highborn lady would be such a swindler, he remarks, proving his information network has already uncovered her noble identity. Roseline meets his gaze with absolute composure. Coming from an infamous information broker, she takes that title as an absolute honor. Leaning in dramatically close, he unexpectedly takes her gloved hand in his. He whispers a smooth alternative right into her ear, promising to hand over everything for free if she agrees to become his queen. Bold move. Can you blame him for trying? Honestly, I admire his unshakable confidence. Roseline shuts him down without a single moment of hesitation. She swats his hand away sharply and thrusts the official bank draft forward. And do not touch me so carelessly, she warns coldly, forcing the deal back to the flat sum of 1.5 billion. She coolly declares that the extra payment should easily forgive his recent rudeness. Sweating profusely beneath his ornate mask, the dealer stands entirely humbled by her ice-cold dismissal. Does she genuinely loathe this type of man? He truly has no idea how to handle a woman like her. Walking out into the quiet night air, Roseline leaves the secretive gathering behind. It is an immense relief to have everything settled properly. She successfully purchased all 3 captives for 1.5 billion, leaving the flamboyant dealer sulking in dark disappointment over his defeated ego. Expecting to find a terrified, helpless captive shivering alone in the dark, Roseline quietly steps up to the carriage and opens the heavy door. But instead of a frightened child, sharp emerald eyes glare back at her with intense murderous rage. Looks ready to tear her apart the second she drops her guard. Recognizing the unyielding pride of a Kalutan warrior despite his heavy suppression shackles, Roseline remains perfectly composed. She calmly steps inside the luxurious carriage and takes a seat directly opposite the boy. Shall we talk for a moment before we depart? She introduces herself gently as Roseline, warmly asking if he is hungry, cold, or suffering from any injuries. When she casually mentions her upcoming diplomatic delegation to Kaluta in a few days, the boy flinches in visible surprise. Is she really planning to take him back home? The young prince snaps, heavy chains clattering loudly against the carriage floor. He leaps to his feet and glares down at her with intense fury. How dare you try to bewitch me with such words? He refuses to let her hypocrisy and silver trick him into letting his guard down. Unbothered by his aggressive display, Roseline slowly reaches up and unties her ornate mask. As her striking crimson eyes and brilliant silver hair are revealed, the angry prince freezes in his tracks. His face flushes a deep, burning red. Honestly, can you blame the poor boy for completely losing his train of thought? Remembering that Kalutans value physical beauty above all else, Roseline offers a subtle, knowing smirk. His intense embarrassment tells her everything she needs to know about him. She resolves to make full use of her appearance to handle this stubborn young royal. Leaning in close, she gently gathers his dropped blanket and wraps it securely back around his shoulders. Do you not wish to return to your home? Before he can sputter out another angry protest, she reaches out and gently takes his shackled hand, leaving the fierce prince utterly speechless and disarmed. With a quiet metallic click, Roseline removes the heavy suppression shackles binding the boy's wrists. He stares at his newly freed hands in complete shock, bewildered by why a buyer would unchain him. Rosaline comfortably relaxes on her velvet carriage seat, offering a soft smile as she tells him she did not purchase him to be a slave. She kindly explains that he can hardly return home to his family wearing humiliating slave restraints. Staring down at his bare wrists, the young prince wonders what on earth this imperial noblewoman is thinking. Is she really foolish enough to release a prisoner in a dark carriage without fearing an attack? Agreeing to sit down for a calm conversation, the flustered boy wraps his blanket tight and asks about her diplomatic trip. Does the Empire really lack capable people so much that they would send someone who looks so sickly on a dangerous journey? He worries she will fall ill on the way. Rosaline dramatically clasps her gloved hand to her chest, pretending to be shaken by his blunt outburst. She teasingly scolds him for shouting at a delicate lady, asking if that is how a prince treats someone so weak. "Oh, you startled me." Her playful drama leaves him completely flustered on the spot. His face turns bright red as he quickly lowers his eyes and stammers out a humbled apology. "I am truly sorry, I was wrong." He quietly admits he was deceived by people he trusted before waking up bound in chains, making it impossible not to suspect her intentions at first. Trust is not easily earned. Though still holding on to his caution, he wonders if she might actually be a rare ally to Kaluta. Rosaline graciously accepts his apology with a radiant smile. Watching her closely, the prince grumbles to himself, wondering if she keeps smiling like that, simply because she knows just how beautiful she is. Can you really blame the poor guy? Observing his expressive face, Rosaline finds it amusing to be called weak. When was the last time anyone outside her family viewed her that way? Yet to a Kalutan warrior, a formidable race where a single fighter possesses strength equal to 100 soldiers, any ordinary human naturally seems fragile. Can she win over this proud young prince? Never underestimate a Kalutan warrior. Legend says even a child among them can easily defeat an adult imperial man. When a rogue kingdom kidnapped the Kaluta king's daughter, he personally annihilated their entire realm with only a few guards. Yet despite their terrifying reputation, they strictly honor moral debts. That honorable nature is precisely what Rosaline intends to use to her advantage. If she brings back the prince alongside the criminal who kidnapped him, the king will certainly show great favor. Securing their trust before her diplomatic mission even begins is pure genius. Honestly, her sharp, strategic mind never misses a beat. Still trying to hold on to his royal dignity, the flustered boy stammers that his father will generously repay her purchase price and extra fees for her trouble. But Rosaline merely chuckles, relaxing comfortably on her plush seat. I do not need that. Simple gold is not what she wants. She reaches out and gently presses her gloved finger right against his lips to quiet his sputtering protests. Instead, let us make one thing clear. Clutching his blanket tight, the prince stares back with wide green eyes, suddenly realizing she has a far grander scheme in mind. What terms will she demand? The young Kalutan prince immediately suspects a hidden catch behind her sudden rescue mission. Is she after money, or does she already know his royal identity? Bracing himself for outrageous political demands, he looks up expecting a ruthless threat, only to find Rosaline watching him with a remarkably calm, serene smile. Fearing she intends to leverage his situation to make unreasonable demands of his homeland, he readies himself for a fierce verbal confrontation. Her actual condition is completely unexpected. Rosaline maintains her elegant composure, meets his guarded gaze directly, and firmly requests, "Stop speaking down to me and show some respect." He blinks in total astonishment, stammering back, "That's all." Rosaline patiently explains that standing on equal footing is essential for anyone she plans to work alongside in the near future. She refuses to negotiate under condescending words, insisting that mutual courtesy forms the absolute foundation of their upcoming partnership. She reminds him that his attitude toward her as a prince will set the precedent for everyone else in his realm. If he treats her with casual disregard, how can she expect proper honor from the rest of his people? Her sharp, logical reasoning leaves him completely speechless in response. Desperate to salvage his royal pride, he scowls, "I don't speak formally to those weaker than me." Rosaline dryly points out that she was the one who rescued him from those captors. Honestly, watching him turn bright pink while leaping onto the carriage seat to blame dirty tricks is just hilarious. Rather than teasing his frantic excuses, Rosaline nods with genuine understanding. She openly acknowledges the legendary reputation of Kalutan warriors, validating his bruised honor instead of mocking his defeat. He grows quiet, completely taken aback to realize that her high regard for his proud people is entirely sincere and heartfelt. Taking in her serene grace and striking beauty, his remaining hostility completely evaporates into thin air. Could this remarkable noblewoman actually be his ideal bride? When Rosaline leans forward in the carriage and softly asks his age, he clears his throat and replies, "My age? I'm 17. And you?" Blushing heavily, the prince corrects her previous assumption, revealing his name is Batar and that he is actually only 12 years old. Rosaline offers a sweet compliment before bringing up her 17-year-old brother, Ban, praising his extraordinary battle sense and handsome build. Embarrassed by her sudden family ramblings, Batar flusteredly asks why she keeps mentioning him, only for Rosaline to playfully hint that her brother shares his taste in women. Determined to maintain his pride while obeying her demands, Batar dramatically leaps onto the carriage seat to declare a special exception just for her. He frantically recites the rules of respect in his head, struggling to figure out how noble etiquette works. Pointing an awkward finger, he stiffly asks, "You're really taking me back to Kaluta, right, sir?" Talk about taking instructions literally. Rosaline finds his formal attempt hilarious. Seeing a prideful warrior child go to such great lengths just to show courtesy, she meets his anxious gaze and gently reassures him, "Yes, I don't lie." Hearing her truthful promise, Batar exhales a massive sigh of relief, clutching his robe tightly while earnestly pledging to repay her rescue. Reaching out with her gloved hand, Rosaline offers a warm invitation for their journey ahead, telling him she looks forward to working together. Batar flashes a radiant smile and enthusiastically shakes her hand, repeating his clumsy new title for her with pure joy. Can a simple hand clasp rewrite the destiny of their kingdoms? Watching the young prince transform from a defensive captive into an affectionate ally, Rosaline carefully weighs her strategic advantage. Securing an independent alliance with the warriors of Kaluta will grant her house immense leverage outside imperial control. It is a masterstroke. This single bond will provide the ultimate shield for her family's safety. In her past life, the duchy collapsed under Carmel's schemes, while Uncle Aegis's desperate cries for help were heartlessly ignored. That terrible failure has haunted her like a painful thorn lodged deep within her chest. She will pull out that thorn. By forging powerful commercial alliances now, she will save her family in this lifetime. Meanwhile, heavy rain cascades over the majestic estate of House Wilbred. Inside his quiet study, an attendant steps forward to deliver an unexpected arrival to the Marquis. A sealed letter accompanied by a mysterious parcel sent directly from Rosaline herself. What could she possibly be sending him out of the blue? Puzzled by her surprise package, he unseals her written note before touching the box. Rosaline begins with a cheeky apology for spending so much of his money. Yet half of that staggering sum went toward buying a magnificent pearl necklace for the Marchioness on behalf of her clueless husband. What a bold move! Rosaline adds that his recent actions gave her plenty of food for thought, offering her sincere appreciation. The Marquis smiles warmly at her elaborate flaffing, quite a verbose way to say thank you. Looking at the sparkling jewel, he realizes she saw right through his subtle tests. She thinks just like him. Because their sharp, calculating minds operate on the exact same wavelength, they clashed constantly in the past. Honestly, I love a man who finds a headstrong woman so entertaining. He rests his chin in his hand, smirking over how genuinely thrilling their battles of wit always were. His memory drifts back to the night she first caught his eye. At a grand high society banquet, a spiteful noblewoman deliberately dumped a full glass of wine over Rosaline's dress. The lady giggled. "Oh my, I'm so sorry, my lady," expecting Rosaline to crumble in shame before the laughing crowd. Rosaline didn't weep or cower. Instead, she grabbed her offender and tackled her straight onto the marble floor with a dramatic crash. The venue erupted in total chaos. Watching the wild brawl while sipping his champagne, the Marquis initially wrote her off as nothing more than vulgar and foolish. He assumed she was just another brainless noble. But after Rosaline stormed out of the duchy, everything changed. When targeted by nobles holding bitter grudges, she retaliated by systematically gathering secret business information on every enemy house and selling it directly to their rivals. She transformed into a mastermind. She carefully mapped out the complex relationships between high society families to avoid detection. Rosaline selectively sold critical intel, only to rival houses that wouldn't cause collateral damage to the innocent. Playing masterfully on the noble's arrogance, she kept her identity thoroughly concealed under a dark cloak. She pulled the strings unseen. No one ever imagined an exiled noblewoman was running a covert information network right under their noses. Then the sudden crisis hit House Wilbred directly. A panicked attendant burst into the Marquis's private study gasping, "Miss Marquis, we have a major problem!" Every single business family they intended to partner with for their key project had signed with House of Lutek instead. The Marquis stood in utter silence as he realized he had been robbed in broad daylight. Furious at the sudden loss, he launched a relentless search to hunt down the anonymous culprit. Yet as he traced the intricate paper trail, his anger quickly transformed into genuine fascination over such flawless strategic execution. When he finally uncovered Rosaline's name behind it all, he threw his head back and laughed out loud. "Honestly, I love a man who respects a brilliant opponent. Who else could outmaneuver him so effortlessly?" Back in the present, Marquis Wilbred admiringly examines the red jewel resting inside the wooden box. He smirks warmly, noting, "It's certainly something women would love." Realizing Rosaline handed him the ultimate olive branch, he refuses to let her sincerity go to waste. He will take this exquisite necklace directly to his estranged wife's private quarters. Across the estate, Marchioness Selina Wilbred sits quietly during her afternoon tea. As a sudden knock breaks the silence of her lavish room, she gently rests her teacup on its saucer. Looking toward the doorway with quiet grace, she calls out, "Come in." She expects nothing more than a routine servant bringing fresh refreshments. Selina's blue eyes widen in complete astonishment the second her husband steps through the door. Carrying the mysterious gift box in hand, Marquis Wilbred meets her guarded gaze and says smoothly, "Pardon the intrusion. Can a surprise gift finally melt the long-standing ice between this distant couple?" Selina rises from her tea table in clear frustration, questioning what could possibly bring her distant husband to her private quarters at this ungodly hour. Stepping smoothly into the room with the mysterious box, Marquis Wilbred dryly notes that she couldn't even wait for him before diving into her afternoon refreshments. Can these two ever speak without immediate friction? Selina turns her back on him, completely refusing to play along with his casual banter. Tired of empty pleasantries, she pivots around with fire in her eyes and fiercely demands, "When will you grant me a divorce?" Talk about bringing down the hammer. Her sharp outburst completely shatters any illusion of polite harmony between them. The Marquis doesn't even flinch at her furious outburst. Standing tall opposite his exasperated wife, a faint mocking smile plays on his lips. Meeting her glaring eyes directly, he delivers his answer with absolute composure, declaring, "As for a divorce, I will never grant it." Well, that settled that. He flatly refuses her request, declaring, "I won't agree to a divorce." He even admits that he suffocates whenever they are together, which is why he limits his presence to a single daily visit during tea time. She steps back in disbelief, unable to grasp why a man so obsessed with work would suddenly act this way. When he echoes his unexpected confession, "I told you, I like you," her eyes widen in shock. What kind of cruel joke is this now? Overwhelmed by his sudden shift, she clutches her dress and cries out, "If you won't give me a divorce, then pretend you don't know me like you used to." Rather than arguing, the Marquis remains calm, pointing toward a small wooden box sitting on the table. He quietly explains that the child he intends to adopt asked him to pass this gift to her. Exhausted by his unpredictable behavior, she presses a hand to her forehead in total confusion. She reminds him that she proposed this marriage herself, never resenting his indifference, and hoping their bond might grow over time. But the true breaking point came when her parents died in a carriage accident. Watching him maintain nothing but stiff formal courtesy at their grave shattered her remaining hope. Gazing at his impassive figure through her tears, she accepted the bitter reality. He simply did not know how to love. To protect herself from receiving such terrible scars ever again, she finally made the painful decision to give up on everything between them. She hides her tear-stained face in her hands, questioning why he is choosing to disrupt her peace now. Trembling under the weight of her grief, she offers a quiet surrender, promising never to ask for a divorce again if it tarnishes his honor. Rosaline buries her face in her hands, weeping as she asks him to stop tormenting her. The Marquis pauses in place, his dark eyes fixed on her trembling shoulders in total silence. He offers no excuses or comfort. Is his stoic expression cold indifference, or is he wrestling with hidden remorse? She simply cannot tell anymore. Refusing to engage in an argument, he opens a small velvet box sitting on the table, revealing a delicate pearl necklace. He softly explains, "This jewel was sent by the Lady of Bellion." He gently requests that she keep it even if her hatred for him deepens. Promising to visit again tomorrow, he turns and leaves. The second the heavy doors click shut, Rosaline's composure collapses. She gasps for breath as hot tears spill over, her body sinking helplessly against the ornate doorframe. Can anyone really blame her for reaching her absolute breaking point? Honestly, watching her endure this alone makes my heart ache. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the Bellian duchy, where a chaotic outburst shatters the quiet hall. Rosaline's uncle splutters red wine everywhere, coughing hard in complete disbelief. Rosaline stands tall before him with cool, unwavering composure. She looks him in the eye and commands, "I told you to quit Magroxa." She delivers her grim warning without flinching, explaining that her vision foresaw his death and their entire family falling into ruin. Her uncle staggers back, clutching his spinning head as blood-red wine drips onto the floor. The overwhelming revelation leaves him completely stunned. He can barely remain on his feet. Panicking at her reckless actions, he yells out, "You threw yourself down to die!" The realization that she risked her life to awaken her abyss power sends him into a tailspin. Yet Rosaline remains entirely unbothered by his dramatic outburst, coldly pressing him to drop his dangerous affairs once and for all. Rosaline, standing tall, directly commands him to back out of the medicinal herb import deal he has been secretly arranging. Her uncle staggers back in complete disbelief. How could she possibly know about a dangerous deal he kept strictly hidden from everyone? She vividly recalls her previous world, where he was caught and purged while carrying out secret orders directly from the king. Seeing him walk into the exact same trap again, she steps in to alter his fate. "If you don't want to be falsely implicated in the assassination of the royal family, stop right now," she warns coldly. Her uncle panics, trembling as he wonders how she uncovered a secret known only to him and the monarch. He clutches his head in total frustration, struggling to accept the humiliating reality. How could his young niece corner him so easily? Desperate to regain control, he snaps back, asking what gives her the right to order adults around. Rosaline crushes his pride without hesitation. "Even if you do that, you won't be able to catch the king of Magroxa," she counters sharply. He falters. She forces him to confront their painful history and his late sister, Lily Bellion. When their illegitimate brother Ian ran away out of inferiority, Lily dragged her injured leg to go after him out of deep family concern. Ambushed by Magroxa assassins targeting their house, Lily volunteered as bait so her brother could escape, meeting her tragic end. Rosaline reveals that the enemy king mocked their family's disgraceful downfall in her past life. Honestly, watching Rosaline handle her reckless family is exhausting. Shaken to his core, her uncle grabs her arm in a frantic surge of anger. He violently demands to know who spilled these secret truths. Was it her father? Rosaline slaps his hand away without hesitation, standing her ground against his sudden outburst. She warns him to pull himself together before his reckless deals ruin their entire family line, telling him plainly, "Stop holding on to the dead. Can you blame her for taking charge?" Her uncle snaps, reaching out aggressively as he accuses her of speaking out of turn. But Rosaline's glowing abyss gaze cuts right through his hostility. She looks him dead in the eye and asks, "Why are you getting angry at me? Truth hurts." She brutally exposes the secret he kept buried for years. He was the coward who ran away alone, leaving his injured sister behind to face death, and maintained complete silence ever since. Cold sweat breaks out across his face. He has zero defense. Staggering backward in sheer shock, he stammers helplessly, unable to construct a single excuse for that tragic past. His legs give out entirely, causing him to fall heavily onto his knees right before her feet. His proud posture is totally shattered. Looking down at him, Rosaline remains entirely unbothered by his collapse. She calmly vows to catch the king of Magroxa herself, explaining that her own fragile body means she has less to lose if someone must make a move. Her uncle recoils in horror. Desperate to hold her back, he reaches out from the carpeted floor and yells for her to wait. But Rosaline simply turns on her heel and walks away, ignoring his frantic cries. Stepping into the quiet hallway, Rosaline listens to his loud shouting echo from behind the heavy ornate doors. Knowing she will soon leave for Kaluta, she only hopes her stern warning actually sticks. I love how she refuses to waste time on his drama. Rosaline walks away without turning back, leaving her uncle to panic alone over his ruined secret plans. His desperate threats echo uselessly down the quiet marble hallway. She is done wasting precious energy on his excuses. The scene shifts forward to the long-awaited day of departure for Kaluta. Down in the central garden of the Bellian Duchy estate, carriage horses are readied, and dozens of servants hurry back and forth, organizing heavy luggage trunks and supplies for the long expedition ahead. Ian continues badgering her about the magical abyss-imbued artifacts, But Rosaline raises a hand to firmly silence his frantic lecturing. Stop! You aren't going to argue with me until the very day I leave, are you? She knows what she needs. Declining all the other magical items, she selects only an electric shock crossbow and a special heating blanket. Walking along the sunlit terrace, Rosaline hands the cozy blanket over to a maid and quietly commands, "Give this blanket to Batar." Knowing the journey ahead will be bitterly cold, she ensures the young boy is bundled up tight in his new coat by the attentive staff. Stepping further into the bustling courtyard, Rosaline glances around at the massive crowd of bowing maids, attendants, and arriving carriages. Has everyone from the imperial family arrived yet? Out of nowhere, an arrogant blonde prince steps forward with an enraged expression, shouting loudly for everyone in the courtyard to hear. Just how did you seduce royal father to make a half-breed the representative instead of me? Honestly, watching this royal throw an explosive tantrum in public is exhausting. Rosaline winces at his shrill shrieking, completely unimpressed by his dramatic arrival. That yapper managed to show up right on schedule, but where on earth is Arma hiding? When the yelling prince demands to know where she thinks she is going, Rosaline dismisses his public outburst without breaking stride, replying simply, "I'm busy." She steps right past him. Honestly, watching her ignore his whiny tantrum is so satisfying. Taking full charge as delegation head, Rosaline turns away to scan the crowded courtyard. She keeps looking for Arma, knowing their punctual nature means they should have arrived by now. But where are they? A sharp call interrupts her thoughts, forcing her to look up. Her red eyes lock onto a handsome dark-haired man in a black imperial uniform staring down with piercing blue eyes. Who is this rude guy with such a nasty temper? Rosaline turns around to find a strikingly handsome young man, dressed in lavish dark imperial attire, standing over her with a cold, haughty expression. She squints in utter confusion, completely unimpressed by his stern posture. Who is this ill-mannered, foul-tempered looking punk? Honestly, if he expects her to bow down, he picked the wrong woman. Crossing her arms, she looks him dead in the eye and asks, "Who are you?" That blunt question shatters his heroic composure instantly. His stern posture melts into a bright red blush, clutching his ornate collar as he stammers in sheer embarrassment. Did he really think that sudden fierce look would work on her? Slumping his shoulders in defeat, he sighs softly and admits that acting tough really doesn't suit him. He holds up his hands nervously and pleads, "It's me. It's Arma." Rosaline blinks in surprise, finally recognizing her usually gentle companion beneath all that lavish imperial grandiosity. She recalls suggesting he practice giving off a more confident and imposing impression as head of the delegation. However, she certainly never expected him to be this good at it. Before their conversation can go any further, sudden footsteps echo across the stone patio. A cheerful white-haired boy with bright green eyes rushes into the garden to greet Rosaline, but abruptly freezes in his tracks. Arma glares down at him with an intense, unyielding gaze. Is it just me, or did the room temperature just drop to sub-zero? The young boy ducks behind Rosaline for cover, nervously asking who the tall stranger is. She matter-of-factly identifies him as the third prince heading their delegation. That's not what he meant. Leaning in, he demands to know his actual relationship with her. Rosaline answers smoothly, "My fiancé." The boy's jaw drops in complete disbelief while Arma stands beside her with a proud smile. Flushing red, Arma quickly steps in to explain that they agreed to break off the engagement as soon as their business wraps up. Realizing the relationship is purely temporary, the boy chuckles behind his hand. That's a relief. The cheeky white-haired boy chuckles softly as he reassures Arma that people in Kaluta pay no mind to a partner's romantic past. He cheerfully adds, "Don't you worry at all." Arma's cheeks immediately flush, red with burning embarrassment and annoyance. Glaring down with intense eyes, he grits his teeth, seething, "This little brat." Quickly restoring his noble composure, Arma extends a gentlemanly hand toward Rosaline, asking if she is ready to enter the carriage. As she takes his hand, he wears a triumphantly proud expression, leaving the white-haired boy fuming with intense jealousy right behind them. Score 1 for the prince. Their petty rivalry hits an unexpected roadblock the moment Rosaline speaks up. She blithely suggests that both men head into the carriage together, while she takes care of a few final preparation checks. Both of their faces fall instantly in shock. Did she really just group them together? Neither anticipated sharing their precious one-on-one time with a rival. Noticing the young boy's lingering hesitation, Rosaline places a tender, reassuring hand on his shoulder. She gently explains that because she personally brought him along, she intends to watch over him until their trip concludes. Hearing her compassionate words, the boy gazes up at her with bright, glowing eyes, completely captivated by her warmth. At the same time, Rosaline knows that pairing Arma with the second prince would mean endless harassment for him along the entire journey. She kindly reminds them that the carriage is spacious enough for everyone. I can't help but laugh at both guys pouting like sulking kids. Their ambitious romantic plans vanish into thin air. With the entire delegation packed and ready, the magnificent imperial carriages pull away from the palace, rolling steadily along the peaceful, sunlit forest road toward their destination. Step inside the carriage, however, and you can practically feel the sub-zero chill in the air. Arma and the boy sit directly across from each other with arms tightly crossed, engaged in a relentless staring contest. Meanwhile, Rosaline rests by the window, quietly lost in thought as the lush scenery glides past. How long can this quiet standoff hold? As their carriage travels forward, Rosaline reflects on the complex history of Kaluta. It is a fierce alliance of nomadic tribes, united under its strongest clan. Spanning from high plateaus to vast deserts, their territory makes full control by outsiders nearly impossible. They are no easy enemy. Crossing the harsh salt desert without hesitation, Kaluta's relentless warriors frequently raid the empire's borderlands. Whenever imperial forces attempt pursuit, the nomads use the rugged mountains and superior mobility to easily slip away. Military subjugation has failed time and again. If Kaluta cannot be conquered by force or kept as an active threat, Rosaline knows there is only one option left. They must become allies instead. Hearing her resolute explanation, the white-haired boy beside her beams with admiration, completely charmed by her sharp intellect. Sounds simple, right? The imperial delegation finally arrives at the Kaluta representative camp, nestled high within the mountain range. Walking along a sunlit pathway flanked by spear-bearing guards and bowing attendants, Arma and Rosaline step forward to represent the empire. The tension in the air is palpable. A striking man with silver hair and sun-kissed skin steps out to welcome them, offering an open palm. He smiles smoothly, introducing himself as Bon, a minor chieftain of Kaluta. If you ask me, he certainly knows how to command attention. Arma meets the chieftain with regal composure, formally announcing his role third prince and delegation leader. But the moment their hands touch, Bon squeezes with crushing pressure to test his guest's resolve. Arma doesn't flinch. He locks his grip and pushes back with equal force. Bon quickly realizes that the young prince will not back down or be intimidated. Impressed by Arma's unexpected strength, the chieftain bursts into loud, boisterous laughter. Their fierce handshake standoff breaks with a chuckle, but the true diplomatic game has only just begun. Satisfied with Arma's unyielding strength, Bon bows politely and offers a sincere apology for testing him so abruptly. Arma accepts the chieftain's gesture with calm imperial dignity, maintaining his noble posture as delegation leader. He passed the test. Arma proved he will not be easily intimidated. Shifting his attention, Bon turns toward Rosaline and politely asks for the identity of the breathtaking lady standing beside the prince. Rosaline steps forward with poise, introducing herself as Rosaline Bellion. Deeply intrigued by her sharp mind and composed aura, the chieftain steps closer to greet her properly. Disregarding imperial etiquette entirely, Bon takes her hand and looks deeply into her eyes, asking, "By any chance, do you have a lover?" Talk about smooth. Rosaline blinks in complete bewilderment at his sudden forwardness, wondering if Kalutan greetings always begin with such a direct personal interrogation. Before the chieftain can charm her any further, Arma steps in and tightly intertwines his fingers with Rosaline's. Rosaline offers a serene smile, calmly answering, "I do have a fiancé." Arma locks eyes with his new rival, asserting his place by her side with fierce determination. Bon simply smiles at their unified front. Rosaline masterfully redirects the diplomatic conversation, announcing that she brought a very special gift for their hosts. Right on cue, a white-haired child dressed in red imperial attire rushes out from behind the attendants, sprinting forward at full speed and tackling Bon right around the waist. Bon freezes in total shock, immediately recognizing the child as his missing little brother, Batar. The young boy bursts into heavy tears, clinging tightly to his older brother while Bon scolds him for disappearing without a word. A heartwarming family reunion, isn't it? Rosaline steps forward with a cold expression, bringing out a dark relic pulsing with sinister magic. She sternly reveals that Batar's long disappearance was no accident, pointing out the evidence that binds their enemy to this plot. Is war about to break out? Swirling dark magic vanishes from the air, dropping a bound nobleman right onto the hard stone floor. Talk about a dramatic reveal. Batar gasps in disbelief as he recognizes the terrified captive sitting before them. Uncle Jambaga? What in the world is the king's own brother doing bound up like a prisoner? Attendants immediately panic and rush forward to treat the royal relative. Ban's expression darkens into pure fury, glaring at the imperial guests for daring to harm his family. War feels seconds away. Desperate to stop an immediate bloodbath, little Batar tightly clings to his older brother's arm, pleading for him to listen. Will Ban hold back before drawing his blade? If you ask me, this diplomatic meeting just took a wild turn. Shaking with emotion, Batar points an accusing finger straight at his uncle. He shouts the devastating truth. This bastard kidnapped me. The true traitor stands exposed. The entire camp freezes in silence. Batar clings frantically to his brother's arm, desperate to halt the confrontation. He cries out, "That's not it, brother!" Turning around, he points accusingly at his trembling relative. "Uncle, no! This bastard kidnapped me!" The sudden revelation turns the air bone-chilling cold. Shocked by the accusation, his brother drops to his knees. He gently takes Batar's small hands, searching his tearful face for answers. "What do you mean, Batar? How could his own blood turn against him like this?" He demands to hear the whole truth right now. Batar recounts his terrifying ordeal from the very start. The moment he stepped outside their home territory, ruthless warriors ambushed him under his uncle's orders. Though he managed to escape into the Empire, he ended up lost and shivering in dark, rainy alleys. Starving for days, the desperate boy finally accepted a piece of bread from a hooded stranger. It was a fatal mistake. Poisoned by the food, his vision blurred before he collapsed onto the wet ground, leaving him completely helpless. He woke up bound in heavy chains at a slave auction house. Dark despair closed in, until an unexpected angel broke through the shadows. Rosaline stepped forward to save him. "Rosalind is the one who saved me. I can't blame the kid for worshipping her like a savior." She stepped up without hesitation, outbidding a shady buyer to purchase his freedom. If she had been even a little bit later, Batar would have lost his life in that dark place. Her swift intervention changed his fate forever. Furious realization dawns on the brother as the horror of the betrayal sinks in. Yet despite his raging anger, he gently cradles Batar's head, pulling him close to offer comfort. He then commands his guard to take the exhausted boy away to rest safely. With Batar safely led away, cold fury fills his green eyes. He turns to confront the traitor lying broken on the floor. "Uncle, why did you do it?" Whispers suggest the chieftain was corrupted by a dark abyss power, but no magic can erase this sin. Determined to pull the full truth directly from the traitor, the young chieftain decides to awaken his uncle by force. With a dark, quiet smile, he seizes the old man by his collar and lifts him completely off his feet without hesitation. How could a trusted relative commit such a heinous act against his own family? He squeezes his throat until the old traitor gasps helplessly for breath, demonstrating the terrifying authority of a true chieftain to everyone standing in the hall. Nobody dares to object. Wiping fresh blood from his cheek, he coldly commands his guards, treat his wounds briefly and lock him in the dungeon. The traitor's fate is sealed. With the traitor dragged away into custody, attentive attendants swiftly step forward to clean the blood from their chieftain's hands and garments. He quickly regains his composure, turning toward Rosaline and her imperial companions with genuine respect. He offers his deepest gratitude for saving his little brother, though he must step away to resolve this crisis. Before he can officially excuse himself, rapid footsteps echo loudly across the grand hall. The blonde imperial knight turns around in total confusion, completely unaware of the incoming chaos. A wild, energetic tribal girl rushes in and tackles him straight onto the hard floor. "Honestly, I wish someone would tackle me with that much enthusiasm." As the dust clears, the girl sits triumphantly right on top of the pinned knight. She giggles in utter delight, taking her sweet time to admire her captive's startled face from mere inches away. She gleefully whispers that he looks even more handsome up close. He never stood a chance against her sudden assault. The chieftain steps in to introduce the lively girl as his younger sister Naryan, explaining she will act as their official guide during their stay. But Naryan clearly has her own immediate priority. Hovering right over the blushing knight, she smiles mischievously and asks, "Hey, wanna marry me?" Does he even know how to answer that? Naryan cheerfully introduces herself as the Khan's daughter and Batar's elder sister. Before anyone can react, she physically traps the flustered blonde knight, holding his chin and admiring his handsome face from mere inches away. She brazenly declares that a prickly masculine prince is exactly her type. Hearing those exact words triggers an instant memory for Jaron. Rosaline had once described her ideal man using that identical phrasing. He turns sharply to stare at her. Does he finally get it? Rosaline turns her face away, desperately avoiding his gaze. Narian isn't finished yet. Turning toward Jaren and Rosaline, she laughs at how gracefully they dodged her initial rush. She playfully invites both of them to join her growing harem alongside the poor knight. Rosaline shuts down the wild proposal with a cold, "I'll pass." Jaren scratches his neck and quickly seconds her refusal. Honestly, I can't blame them for fleeing this chaotic disaster. Unbothered by their rejections, Narian effortlessly hoists the protesting knight into a princess carry. She casually informs them that tonight's welcome feast is postponed for their traitorous uncle's execution. Advising them to rest in their assigned rooms, she promises an official audience with the Khan tomorrow. As Narian carries the protesting knight out of the grand lounge, an awkward silence settles over the room. Rosaline calmly rises from chairs, suggesting they both turn in early to prepare for tomorrow's official audience with the Khan. Honestly, watching these two navigate this wild chaos is hilarious. Jaren suddenly shoots up from his seat, calling out to her with intense urgency. Rosaline turns around to face him, but he freezes. Sweat drops down his flushed cheek as his calm composure completely crumbles. He stammers nervously, unable to say what is truly on his mind, before blurting out for her to just get some rest. Why is he so hesitant? Once inside his private quarters, Jaren collapses face down onto the bed with a weary sigh. He rolls over onto his side, staring blankly as past memories resurface. Rosaline had previously claimed her ideal partner was someone polite and gentle rather than an arrogant noble. He slowly sits up on the edge of the mattress. Her serious expression back then felt completely genuine. He grips his dark hair in frustration, tormented by his inner conflict. Breaking off their engagement should not have bothered him this much. However, revealing his true strength poses a far more dangerous threat to his secret goals. To successfully achieve his revenge, he must strictly project a weak and pathetic image, yet he keeps losing control whenever she is involved. He let his guard down. Getting distracted by her ideal type caused him to show actual vulnerability. Then a disturbing, suspicious thought strikes him. How could Rosaline describe the Kaluta princess's exact ideal man word for word without ever having met her? Her eyes had been filled with absolute conviction earlier. Could she have intentionally guided his behavior all along to increase the odds of a royal marriage? Walking through the quiet hallway, Jaren tries to rationalize Rosaline's uncanny intuition. If it's her, that's entirely possible, he mutters to himself. Yet he rubs his neck in sheer frustration, unable to shake off the unsettling irritation lingering in his mind. Why is something so trivial bothering him this much? Then, a startling thought strikes him out of nowhere. Could it be that he is actually falling for Rosaline? Her radiant smile and vivid red eyes flash in his memory, and honestly, who could blame him for being captivated? His heart races in a way he never anticipated. No way. He immediately crushes the terrifying thought. He convinces himself this isn't love, just the bitter annoyance of someone he claimed as his slipping out of his control. She was meant to stay strictly within his reach, yet she keeps dancing outside his boundaries. Gripping the marble railing, his expression darkens with possessive focus. He cannot allow petty emotions to derail his ultimate goal. Since there are fewer watching eyes in Kaluta, he resolves to claim Rosaline completely and lock her inside his territory once and for all. And that's where the story is currently at. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe because I'll be posting new chapters as soon as they come out. See you. The next one.